Chapter 13:19. If the five top forces joined forces, even the sacred ground would be destroyed. However, the more powerful a force was, the more it was impossible for them to join forces with other forces. After all, they had their pride and dignity. Otherwise, it would not be the sacred ground's turn to make decisions in this world. Among the five forces, other than the Black Buddha, the Six-Winged Sky Clan and the True Feather Clan were quite famous in the Great Thousand World. It was said that they came from the same source, and their ancestors were the same kind of living beings. These two forces were very powerful and had always been domineering. When the six realms were destroyed, these two forces had contributed greatly. As for the Heavenly Court, it was a force that had only appeared recently. This force was very powerful and was suspected to be related to the ancient Heavenly Court. Not many people in the world knew where the Heavenly Court's Real Mountain Gate was. It was said that in the deepest part of the Heavenly Court, there might be a prehistoric true immortal sleeping. As for the Red Spider Lily, very few people in the world knew about it. This force was very mysterious, and not many people had seen them before. However, Mushian knew a little about it. It was said that this force originated from the ancient netherworld, and the living beings in the entire force were all red spider lilies. They were very strange and evil. Back then, it was because of this force that the red spider lily had announced to the outside world that if one could obtain the corpse of an invincible being, they would be able to break the invincible technique. Now, after such a long time, perhaps the red spider lily had really broken the invincible technique. The five great forces should have more than 10 subordinate forces. Jiang Chen frowned and said, "It's really difficult with just a few of us." However, after saying this, Jiang Chen suddenly laughed and said, "However, we also have helpers." "Oh, what kind of helpers?" Wakako asked curiously. The major forces in the Great Thousand World are not united. Many forces are enemies. Jiang Chen said, for example, the Emperor Clan, the Evil Clan, the Dragon Clan, and so on. Not to mention other things, the three great virtues could summon the powerhouses of the three demon clans. This was a great help. Although D-San of the Emperor Clan had left the Emperor Clan as the bloodline of the Emperor Clan, would the Emperor Clan really not care about him? Before this, D-San had been ambushed by the True Feather race and the Heavenly Court several times. There was no way D-San would let this slide. There's no need to worry. As long as we're strong enough, no matter how many people there are, we'll flatten them, Jiang Chen said. Then, everyone began to discuss the plan. Half a day later, everyone confirmed their plan. Their first goal was to find the Heavenly Court. Jiang Chen's thoughts were clear. The red spider lily was too mysterious and demonic. If he went there rashly, he might not be able to obtain any benefits. The Black Buddha lineage originated from the Buddhists. If they attacked the Black Buddha lineage, the Buddhists would not sit idly by. The True Winged race and the Six-Winged Sky race could be considered to be of the same race, and the two races had always looked out for each other. Offending one of them was equivalent to offending both of them. In that case, the Heavenly Courts were still softer. In addition, there were many people in this world who wanted to deal with the Heavenly Court. I'll use the black market to spread the news. When the time comes, those who have enmity with the Heavenly Court will probably come and help us, especially the Emperor race, Jiang Chen said. However, the most important thing now was to find the Heavenly Court's mountain gate. Although the Heavenly Court was very high profile, their mountain gate was very mysterious. Not many people in the world knew where it was. Fortunately, there was a force called the black market in this world. As long as you had money, you could buy anything you wanted in the black market. Now that all the extraordinaries had left, the few big shots of the black market had also disappeared. As the direct subordinate of the three big shots of the black market, Jiang Chen naturally became the temporary ruler of the black market. He quickly found out the location of the Heavenly Court's mountain gate through the black market's information network. It was in the southern galaxy, in an ancient ruin that was one of the ruins of the ancient Heavenly Court. In the future, it was occupied by the Heavenly Court and became the Heavenly Court's mountain gate. And that place also had a very famous name, Southern Heavenly Gate. Arrogant and ignorant. How dare you oppose the Heavenly Court? Come at me, The heavenly court is not afraid. Just as Zhongchen announced to the world that he was going to attack the heavenly court also said something. Even without the extraordinaries, the heavenly court's foundation was still very deep, and they were still arrogant. Heavenly court, without the extraordinaries, what are you? The emperors of the world are the same. Today, I will see how the heavenly court will be destroyed. What heavenly court? It's just a fake that uses the name of the ancient heavenly court to abuse its power in the world. The 3 mountains and 5 seas, also want to meet you. I heard that you almost ambushed and killed D-San, who has the bloodline of the Emperor clan's gods. How dare you? On this day, the great wide world was in complete chaos. Those forces that had enmity with the heavenly court opened their mouths and cursed at each other across the starry sky. That posture was like a shrew cursing in the street. This also made more people understand that without the restrictions of the extraordinaries, the balance had been broken. Many forces that were previously inconspicuous had now completely risen. This was because although some forces did not have extraordinaries, they had ridiculously powerful emperors, especially the Emperor clan's god lineage. The strength of this race's emperors could be said to be resounding throughout the entire great wide world. The emperors of the Emperor clan had rarely been defeated since ancient times. Even in the era of the Empress, there were only a few emperors of the Emperor clan who could contend with the Empress. In the name of the holy ancestral dragon, I command the Dragon clan's emperors to go to war. In the name of the 9 Netherworld Phoenix, I command the Phoenix clan's emperors to go to war. In the name of the Vermilion Bird King, I command the Vermilion Bird clan's emperors to go to war. On this day, the 3 great virtues returned to their clans. The 3 great demon clans were extremely excited and obeyed the 3 great virtues. At the same time, D-San returned to the Emperor clan's god lineage and told his elders about his experience. On that day, the Emperor clan's god lineage was completely furious. Many people saw the Emperor clan's god lineage send out dozens of top emperors across the void and headed straight for the southern heavenly gate. At the same time, the various evil races also made their move. They did not announce too much to the world, but dozens of emperors appeared. This was to tell the world with practical actions that the evil races were not afraid of the heavenly court. The world is stirred up by the 6 realms. On this day, Zhang Chun led Wakako and the others across the void and arrived in front of the southern heavenly gate. Looking around, the southern heavenly gate was in the ruins of the starry sky. There were ruins of palaces everywhere, as well as fragments of stars. A long time ago, a great battle had taken place here, and this place was almost shattered. With the support of the grand momentum of heaven and earth, although this place has collapsed, it can't be underestimated, Zhang Chun said in a deep voice, looking at the broken stone gate not far away. The 3 words, Southern Heavenly Gate, on it were modeled, but it still gave people a feeling of awe-inspiring power. Behind the Southern Heavenly Gate, there were many newly built palaces surrounded by clouds and mist, like a dream paradise. And that was where the mountain gate of the Heavenly Court was located. Chapter 1320. After the Heavenly Court appeared, they came to the Southern Star region, defeated Nianchanga, and occupied this place as their mountain gate. It had to be said that the Heavenly Court was very ambitious. Occupying this place, did they want to be on par with the ancient Heavenly Court? Kill them at this moment. Without waiting for Zhang Chun and the others to make a move, the people of the Emperor race's god lineage arrived. With a furious roar, dozens of emperors rushed out, passed through the southern heavenly gate, and rushed into the heavenly court. Buzz! However, a tremor sounded, and the heavenly court's protective array formation was activated. Ripples like rainbows connected heaven and earth, forming a line. The heavenly court's protective array formation was very powerful. It emitted the aura of the great Tao of the heavens, blocking the dozens of emperors of the emperor race's god lineage outside. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded one after another. Those emperors directly waved their fists and palms, and terrifying divine power burst out. They were trying to forcefully tear apart the Heavenly Court's protective array formation, a group of ignorant mortals. How can the Heavenly Court's protective array formation be broken by you? Emperor Race's god lineage. You really have the guts to come to my Heavenly Court and behave atrociously? At this moment, in the protective array formation, a group of emperors of the Heavenly Court stood proudly at the mountain gate. They were in high spirits, and their eyes were filled with confidence and contempt. In their eyes, so what if they were from the Emperor Race's god lineage? If it weren't for the fact that the transcendence of the Heavenly Court had all left, the Emperor Race's god lineage wouldn't dare to come to the Heavenly Court to behave atrociously. Moreover, if it weren't for the fact that there were too many enemies here today, the Heavenly Court really didn't care about the few emperors of the Emperor Race's god lineage. Why would they hide under the protective array formation? You are not the ancient Heavenly Court. What's the use of calling yourself the Heavenly Court? After today, the Heavenly Court will no longer exist. The group of emperors of the Emperor Race rebuked angrily. The fist light that they struck out was like the falling sun, and the entire world was shaking. It had to be said that the emperors of the Emperor Race's god lineage were indeed very strong. Under the joint attack of dozens of people, the Heavenly Court's protective array formation actually fluctuated, and even cracks appeared on the rainbow-like light screen. The combat strength of the emperors of the Emperor Race's god lineage was not to be trifled with. In the whole boundless world, who dared to say that the emperor of the Emperor clan was weak? At this moment, under the attacks of the dozens of emperors, the Heavenly Court's sect protecting formation was unable to block in the end. With a loud explosion, it directly exploded, turning into a rain of light that filled the sky and disappeared without a trace. Then, dozens of emperors rushed out and charged towards the group of emperors from the Heavenly Court. This is the Heavenly Court. How dare you? You're courting death. The emperors of the Heavenly Court were not to be outdone either. They charged out like tigers and wolves. Boom! In the next moment, numerous explosions resounded, and the emperors of both sides were locked in a fierce battle. And in this battle, the Monarch clan was very confident. After all, in terms of Monarch-level battle strength, the Monarch of the Monarch clan really didn't need to be afraid of anyone. However, after merely a dozen breaths of time, the group of emperors from the Emperor clan felt that something was wrong. The attacks of the emperors of the Heavenly Court were too ferocious, especially the divine power that erupted from them. It was comparable to that of an extraordinaire. In this short dozen or so breaths of time, 3 monarchs of the Emperor clan actually fell. As for the Heavenly Court side, not only did no one die, no one was even injured. Not good. Retreat. At this moment, the emperors of the Emperor clan were terrified. One by one, they ran away, their expressions slightly pale. A bunch of trash. How dare you cause trouble in the Heavenly Court? You guys really don't know what's good for you. The group of emperors from the Heavenly Court were very proud and aloof. They stood in the mountain gate with looks of contempt. It's normal that they can't win. That's their mountain gate, their territory. Zhangchen said softly. Their bodies are augmented with the power of heaven and earth and Tao techniques. Their combat strength is comparable to that of extraordinaires. How? How can we fight like this? Jiang Lu muttered. Even the always confident Wakako was speechless. The other party was augmented with the power of heaven and earth, and their strength was comparable to that of extraordinaires. There was no way to fight this battle at all. If they went up, they would most likely be courting death. Come out if you have the ability. What do you think you are doing? Come out and fight if you have the guts. Our Emperor clan's emperors will not be weaker than you. Outside the mountain gate, the group of emperors from the Emperor clan had ugly expressions, and they were even more furious. They had lost 3 emperors, and the others were all injured. Most importantly, the group of people from the Heavenly Court was actually mocking them. You want to destroy my Heavenly Court with just you guys? Get lost. The Heavenly Court is not something that you can destroy. The group of emperors from the Heavenly Court did not come out. They also knew very well in their hearts that within the mountain gate, they were invincible. If they walked out, Without the support of the power of heaven and earth, they would definitely not be a match for the Emperor clan's emperors. The Great Void Race is here. The Jiang clan is here too. Right at this moment, evil auras swept over from afar, like black clouds pressing in. The distant sky turned dark black. Looking carefully, they saw that all the emperors of the evil races had come. There were more than 20 of them. Greetings to the highest consecrator. Greetings to the representative of our race. Greetings to His Excellency Jiang Chun. After a few breaths, these 20 over-emperors landed in front of Jiang Chun in unison. Each and every one of them had solemn expressions, lowering their heads and cupping their hands towards Jiang Chun. Jiang Chun waved his hand and said with a smile, "We're all on the same side. No need for this ostentation." Finished talking, Jiang Chun pointed at the Heavenly Court's mountain gate and said, "Don't go in. Going in now is courting death." Oh, what's going on? Amen. It's the power of heaven and earth. The group of evil race emperors discovered the clues very quickly. For a moment, their expressions also became very ugly. So, what if the power of heaven and earth is augmented? Just break them. Jiang Chun said mockingly. "Give me some time. I'll break the Heavenly Court's power of heaven and earth. If I can break the power of heaven and earth, destroying the Heavenly Court will be much easier. Fellow Taoist, I hope that you can make a move and break the Heavenly Court's power of heaven and earth." The emperors of the Emperor race also looked over. A few of them nodded at Jiang Chun, as if they knew about the matter between Jiang Chun and San. "What power of heaven and earth? I am the heavens, and I am the earth. If I don't let you have heaven and earth, you don't deserve it." Suddenly, a dragon's roar came from afar. Looking carefully, Long Date had left at some point, and now he had returned. Holy light flickered on his body, and a dragon's scale shot into the sky from between his brows. The dragon scale turned into a rune, shining in all directions, illuminating the great Tao of the heavens. Under this dragon scale, astral winds suddenly swept up in the Heavenly Court's mountain gate, and strange sounds rang out. In fact, one could even vaguely hear the sound of something shattering. "I was born and raised by the heavens. I am the sacred ancestral dragon. I am the heavens and the earth." At this moment, Long Dade seemed to be using another of his divine abilities. Under the furious roars, a rumbling sound came from the Heavenly Court's mountain gate. Chapter 13:21. After the rumbling sound, the expressions of the emperors of the Heavenly Court changed drastically, and panic appeared in their eyes. It was only because the power of heaven and earth on their bodies had disappeared, and at this moment, their combat strength had returned to normal. Kill! Heavenly Court? Humph! Without the support of the power of heaven and earth. What are you? In terms of emperors, my Emperor clan's god bloodline is the true emperor. At this moment, the emperors of the Emperor clan rushed over again. Each of their eyes were filled with killing intent. When they attacked, their divine power erupted, and their attacks were like monstrous waves. The void was directly torn apart, and the fist and palm prints fell like stars. Wherever they passed, the palaces of the Heavenly Court were collapsing. The other disciples of the Heavenly Court had already retreated, but there were still people who were affected and were obliterated on the spot. Not even a wisp of ash was left. The emperors of the Emperor clan were too strong. At this moment, they were like tigers and wolves. In a dozen breaths of time, they killed 6 emperors of the Heavenly Court. In addition, the emperors of the evil race and the 3 great demon races had also arrived. A group of people pounced over, dancing wildly like crazy demons. After half an incense stick of time, when the last emperor of the Heavenly Court fell, this place could be considered quiet. The palaces of the Heavenly Court were destroyed, and many disciples were killed. Not a single one of those emperors survived. However, at this moment, everyone's expression became solemn, because an extremely terrifying aura spread out from the deepest part of the Heavenly Court. This aura was very strange. Sometimes it was very strong, sometimes it was very weak, and it was erratic. Moreover, Following the appearance of this aura, petals fell from this side of the world, golden lotuses bloomed, and chaos floated out from the void. A strange phenomenon appeared between heaven and earth. The people have been killed, and the palaces have been destroyed. Is everyone appeased? If you've calmed down, then go back. A few breaths later, an ancient voice came from the deepest part of the heavenly court. The voice was very faint and calm, but it gave people an invisible anger. The expressions of the emperors changed drastically, and some were even trembling. Even the emperors of the Emperor clan were tense at this moment, not daring to be careless. May I ask who you are? An emperor of the evil race frowned and asked, Is it the foundation of the heavenly court? If your anger has subsided, then leave. If you still refuse to give up and want to completely destroy the heavenly court, then I'm afraid you'll all have to stay. This old man hasn't made a move for several generations. I didn't want to make an exception today. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone present changed greatly. Not making a move for several eras? In that case, how long had this person been alive? In what realm had his strength reached? Could it be that he's a half-immortal? But one had to know that with a single order from the Holy Land, the extraordinaires and even the demi-immortals had gone to fight against the vanguard of the three realms. How could there be such a powerhouse in the great thousand world? This was ignoring the orders of the Holy Lands? The way the heavenly court does things is destined to be destroyed. Today we are all here. If the heavenly court is not destroyed, what reason do we have to leave? Senior, the destruction of the heavenly court is a fact that cannot be changed. I advise you not to interfere. So, what if you have lived for several eras? After so many years, do you still have the strength to fight? At this moment, the monarch race, monster race, and evil race's monarchs all spoke out, not wanting to leave. Although they were wary of the creature in the deepest part of the heavenly court, that didn't mean they were afraid. One had to know that this group of people were all top-notch emperors. If they joined forces, even extraordinaries would have a headache. You don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, an angry shout sounded from the deepest part of the heavenly court. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man with white hair and a white beard appeared in the deepest part of the heavenly court. There was a fog there, as if there was another world. The old man walked out of the fog and slowly walked towards the crowd. A golden lotus bloomed under his feet, petals danced around him, and an ancient bronze bell floated above his head. His eyes were very bright, as if countless stars had condensed. Since you're unwilling to leave, then stay. At this moment, the old man spoke again. As his voice fell, a series of tremors sounded in the surroundings. Then, a domain unfolded. Not only did it envelop the group of emperors, but even Zhang Chun and the others were implicated. Extraordinaire? You ignored the Holy Land's orders and insisted on staying in the great thousand world. Aren't you afraid of the Holy Land's wrath? A few people rebuked angrily. They could not understand where this old man got the courage to go against the Holy Land's orders. One had to know that in today's world, no one dared to say two words when the Holy Land said one. Holy Land? What's that? When the ancient heavenly court was still around, was there a Holy Land? The old man said disdainfully. When his eyes opened and closed, the sun and moon were reversing. As soon as these words were said, everyone's expressions completely changed. This old man was from the ancient heavenly court. Today's matter has blown up. Even the people from the ancient heavenly court have been provoked. Zhang Chen said in a deep voice, I should have expected that the heavenly court and the ancient heavenly court are related. Boss, what should we do now? This old man looks very powerful. Wakako said in a deep voice. Perhaps all of us combined won't be enough to slap that old man. Actually, there's no need to be so afraid, Zhang Chen said softly. Although he looked a little nervous, there was no trace of panic in the depths of his eyes. It was because this world was like this. Everyone had a trump card. The heavenly court had a trump card and a foundation. Did other forces and races not have one? Zhang Chun did not believe that there were not a few powerhouses from the evil race the demon race, and the emperor race left behind to hold down the fort? I thought it was, so it's you, old man. At this moment, a frivolous voice came from afar. A few breaths later, a middle-aged man in a purple robe actually barged directly into the old man's domain. Within the domain, a person's essence, energy, and great Tao laws formed a zone. In the domain, the person who used the domain was the king. Therefore, under normal circumstances, no one would barge into another person's domain, unless that person's strength absolutely crushed the other party. At this moment, this purple-robed man was like that. Since he dared to barge into the domain of the ancient heavenly court's old man, it meant that in terms of strength, he absolutely crushed the other party. It's you. You're not dead yet. At this moment, the ancient heavenly court's old man exclaimed. The starlight in his eyes disappeared, revealing a trace of fear. If I die, won't a nobody like you turn the sky upside down? The purple-robed man said contemptuously. Back then, you were just a shrimp soldier and crab general of the ancient heavenly court. Now that all the powerhouses have gone to the front lines, do you think you can dominate? Buzz! The moment his voice fell, the purple-robed man waved his hand, and ripples spread out, instantly shattering the ancient heavenly court's old man's domain. Chapter 13:22. The purple-robed man was too powerful. With a raise of his hand, he had shattered the ancient heavenly court's elder's domain. His words did not leave any face for the ancient heavenly court's elder. At that moment, the ancient heavenly court's elder's eyes were filled with fear and dread. The purple-robed man was right. A long time ago, he was just a pawn of the ancient heavenly court. Due to certain reasons, he had survived until now. His cultivation had also reached the peak of this world. Originally, he thought that he could dominate this world. However, he did not expect that someone from the same era as him had survived. Most importantly, he knew better than anyone else how terrifying the purple-robed man was. Back then, this person dared to fight against the entire ancient heavenly court alone. It was also this person who had established the Emperor clan. He was the current Emperor clan's god lineage's old ancestor, Di Shintian. You should know that I can't even remember your name, Di Shintian said disdainfully. He slowly raised his palm and resonated with the great Tao. Tens of thousands of auspicious signs fell from the endless void. The place seemed to be drowned by a sea of flowers. No! The ancient heavenly court's elder was terrified. After screaming, he fled to the deepest part of the heavenly court. He was really scared. He knew how terrifying Di Shintian was. This guy dared to fight against the ancient heavenly court's master. Although Di Shintian was defeated in that battle, he had survived. One should know that there were only a few people who dared to fight against the ancient heavenly court's master and survived. The ancient heavenly court has never been destroyed. If you dare to kill me today, when the ancient heavenly court revives, your Emperor clan will definitely be destroyed. The ancient heavenly court's elder's voice changed. It was filled with fear. However, Di Shintian did not care. He slammed his palm down from the sky. Tens of thousands of auspicious signs fell and slapped the elder down from the sky. Then, he gently clenched his fist. It was as simple as squashing an ant. He directly crushed the elder. This is a ruthless person. He's too powerful. He must be a half-immortal. Everyone exclaimed. Di Shintian's strength was obvious to all. He was simply too powerful. At this moment, the group of emperors were also dumbfounded. They didn't know that their own ancestor was still alive and was even in his peak condition. After being stunned for a while, they knelt down in unison and paid their respects to Di Shintian. You're all my descendants. There's no need for such formalities. Di Shintian waved his hand, and rays of light scattered from his palm. The expressions of these emperors changed as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. The injuries that they suffered earlier were instantly healed. In addition, there were some people whose bodies were trembling, the Tao techniques within their bodies releasing long cries. They were actually about to break through. He himself is a type of great Tao. With a raise of his hand, he can bestow Tao laws and order to others. Someone exclaimed. At this moment, Shantyan looked at San. Although he had not been born, he still had some understanding of his descendants. As far as he knew, San was the most powerful among the current generation of descendants. He kept looking at San. After a few breaths, he slowly nodded and said, "Not bad. Maybe you can surpass me." "What? Is this the form of recognition?" The surrounding people were shocked. Shantyan's words were too frightening. One had to know that he was already very powerful and stood at the top of the world. Now, he actually acknowledged San's talent and potential, and even had the potential to surpass him. If San surpassed Shantyan, then he would be a genuine immortal. "Thank you, ancestor," San said softly. He did not kneel like the others. He was proud. He did not kneel to the heavens and earth, but only to his parents. As for this ancestor who was many generations away from him, San really did not have any feelings for him. "We meet again." At this moment, Shantyan looked at Jiang Chun and said with a smile, "It's a pity that you are no longer who you used to be. My memories of the past few lifetimes have disappeared." Jiang Chun said, "Maybe I can get my memories back, or maybe I can't. Maybe it's like what some people said, I can't return. Does it matter if you return or not? Your soul is still the same as before. It's just that your memories are no longer there." Shantyan said, "You're still you. Nothing has changed." As he said that, he sighed heavily and lamented. "Back then, I fought against the ancient spirit clan, pacified the dark blood era, and defeated the three realms of yin and yang. However, I'm afraid there aren't many people who can fight with me in this lifetime." "Well, if it's possible, I'd like to be with you in this lifetime," said Jiang Chun in a serious tone. However, Jiang Chen's face turned red after he said that. What realm was he in now? He was only an ultimate god. With such a cultivation level, he still wanted to fight against the ancient spirit clan, pacifying the dark blood era? As for defeating the experts from the three realms of yin and yang, that was even more ridiculous. "Take your time. There's no rush." Shantyan smiled and said, "You may have lost your memories, but you still have the righteousness in your heart. This world is far more complicated than we think. We only need to make a move at the last moment and settle the world with one battle," said Shantyan. Having said that, Shantyan turned around and was about to leave. When he passed by Jiang Chun, he began to lament again. He raised his head and looked at the sky for more than 10 breaths of time before he sighed and said, "When can I go home? Perhaps I won't be able to go back for the rest of my life." "Above the firmament?" asked Jiang Chun. "Yes, that place is very beautiful." Shantyan's eyes were filled with memories. He then patted Jiang Chun's shoulder and said, "Don't worry and do it boldly. There are many people in this world who will help you. There's no need to be restrained. You have to know that the world owes you a life." Having said that, Shantyan left and disappeared from the place in an instant, leaving behind a surprised crowd. Jiang Chen's mood was very complicated. He knew what Shantyan meant. Was he going to back him up? However, Jiang Chun was most concerned about Shantyan's origin. Then where did he come from? Did he really come from above the firmament as well? "Boss, what's above the firmament?" asked Jianglu naively. Upon hearing that, Jiang Chun rolled his eyes and said snappily, "What would I know? Do I look like I've recovered my memories?" "Well," Jianglu smiled naively and asked, "Where are we going next?" "Next?" Jiang Chun whispered. His expression turned serious as he looked at the mountain gate of the heavenly court and said, "Do you think the heavenly court has been destroyed?" Everyone's expression changed drastically when they heard that. Their bodies tensed up. "There are still experts in the heavenly court?" Wakako said seriously. Then he reacted and looked at the deepest part of the heavenly court, saying, "There are still people in there?" Chapter 13:23. The old man from before was from the deepest part of the heavenly court. That place was suspected to be the ruins of the ancient heavenly court. There might be other ancient heavenly court elites inside. In order to destroy the heavenly court, they had to destroy its foundation. That was the ancient heavenly court. However, everyone was worried. After all, the ancient heavenly court was too powerful. Among them, the highest cultivation was only an emperor. If there were still people alive in the ancient heavenly court, they would be at least extraordinaries. With their strength, how could they really destroy the heavenly court? Let's give it our all, Jiang Chun said softly. He understood what Di Shintian meant. If there were other elites in the deepest part of the heavenly court, there was no need to be afraid. Di Shintian would definitely take action. Since Di Shintian had said that and left, it could only mean one thing. The ancient heavenly court elites in the deepest part of the heavenly court might not even take action. Let's hurry up later. The heavenly court has a lot of resources. Don't let others take them all. Jiang Chun sent a telepathic message to the few people around him. His nature as a scammer was obvious. Boss, you're the best. Then let's go. At this moment, the few virtuous virtues were very decisive. They believed in Jiang Chun and were greedy for the treasures of the heavenly court. In an instant, the few virtuous virtues rushed out with indomitable will. They were not afraid of the heavenly court elites at all. Everyone was dumbfounded. They were still worried if the ancient heavenly court elites would appear. However, after a few breaths, when they saw the virtuous virtues snatching a huge pile of treasures from the heavenly court, the remaining people could not stay calm. Who cared about the ancient heavenly court elites? Let's snatch them first. Damn it! Why is Di Shintian still alive? That battle was so horrifying. Even the master of the heavenly court fell. How did Di Shintian survive? At this moment, in the deepest part of the heavenly court, a few living beings stood quietly like statues. They were indeed elites of the ancient heavenly court. However, they did not dare to take action at this moment. They could only watch as the treasures of the heavenly court were snatched away and could only lament. Now, they only had one thought. That group of people should not come to the deepest part of the heavenly court. This was the lair of the ancient heavenly court. If this group of people really managed to snatch this place, then they would have to take action and protect the ancient heavenly court's final trump card. When the time came, Di Shintian would surely join the fight as well. At that time, even if they didn't die, they would be seriously injured. What a tragedy. I never thought that my ancient heavenly court would fall to such a state. Damn it. Half an incense's time later, the group of people turned the heavenly court upside down and took everything they could. In the end, Long Dade even took down the entire southern heavenly gate and carried it on his shoulder. According to him, the southern heavenly gate was not only the signboard of the heavenly court, but also the signboard of the ancient heavenly court. Taking down the southern heavenly gate, carrying it back, and placing it in front of his own home, he was announcing to the world that he was the one who destroyed the heavenly court. How shameless, Jiang Chun said snappily. Then, he tapped on the treasure and said to the people around him, "Everyone, we're going to the Black Buddha lineage. Does anyone want to come along? We have no enmity with the Black Buddha lineage, so we won't be going," said an emperor from the monarch tribe. They came this time because the heavenly court had almost killed D-San. They were here to take revenge. Now that they had taken their revenge, they naturally wanted to leave. They could not attack the Hey Buddha lineage for no reason. However, D-San walked out and looked at the group of emperors from the monarch tribe. He said sternly, "I'll go with him. You can do whatever you want." After saying that, D-San walked to Jiang Chen's side and nodded gently. He said, "I'll go with you, young master. We have no enmity with the Black Buddha lineage. It's not appropriate for us to act rashly, right? Young master, please reconsider. The Black Buddha lineage belongs to the Buddhist sects. If we destroy the Black Buddha lineage, the Buddhist sects will not sit idly by." The group of emperors from the monarch tribe dissuaded him. They knew the Buddhist sects very well. One had to know that since ancient times, the forces and experts had changed. However, the Buddhist sects had never changed. Ever since the Buddhist sects were established, they had never disappeared or declined. Some people even guessed that the Buddhist sect's foundation might be above the heavenly court. If they acted rashly, the consequences would be severe. When D-San heard that, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He said mockingly, "What are you afraid of? If we help him destroy the Black Buddha lineage, he will naturally help us destroy the True Feather tribe." Jiang Chun was stunned. He looked at D. San with a strange expression. He thought to himself, this guy is really straightforward. He can even say such things in front of me? However, Jiang Chun did not refute. After all, whether it was the Black Buddha lineage, the True Feather tribe, or the Six-Winged Divine tribe, he had to make a trip to them. However, before they could get up, a ray of Buddhist light shone down from afar. Amidst the chanting of sutras, a Buddha sat cross-legged in the Buddhist light. He looked solemn. Buddhist clouds floated behind him. The lotus platform beneath him emitted Buddhist light as it floated in the void. Everyone, can you let the Black Buddha lineage go? At that moment, the Buddha spoke. His expression was calm, without any joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. Someone from the Buddhist sect? Are you here to plead for mercy for the Black Buddha lineage? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. Then his expression turned cold as he asked, when the Black Buddha lineage wanted to attack the Six Realms, did you Buddhists plead for mercy for the Six Realms? Buddhists help all living beings from torment. Naturally, we did plead for mercy for the Six Realms, the Buddha said. However, the Black Buddha lineage insisted on doing things their own way. No amount of persuasion worked. Oh, is that so? Jiang Chun snorted and said, we tried to persuade them, but we didn't succeed. Therefore, we didn't try. In the end, the mercy and salvation that you speak of are just what you think. Today, I will tell you that the Buddhists tried to persuade the Black Buddha lineage, but to no avail. Today, the Buddhists try to persuade us, but to no avail. I will destroy the Black Buddha lineage. The lives of so many living beings in the Six Realms cannot be lost in vain. After saying that, Jiang Chun stared at the Buddha. His body tensed up. He was already prepared for battle. However, to everyone's surprise, the Buddha didn't say anything. With a flash of Buddha light, he disappeared. This made many people puzzled. Could it be that the Buddhists didn't plan to care about the Black Buddha lineage? The Black Buddha lineage originated from the Buddhists. The Buddhists won't ignore them. Someone sighed and said, perhaps there are already experts in the Buddhists who are guarding the Black Buddha lineage. So what? If the Buddhists have experts, do you think our Emperor clan doesn't have any? D-Sen said coldly. He muttered, that old ancestor of mine can't just watch me die, right? Is there no one in our dragon clan? Why are you encouraging others? Long Day glared at him and then roared, hey, is there no expert in our dragon clan? Give me 8 or 10 half-immortals. Chapter 13:24. After Long Dade shouted, the expressions of the people around him became strange. Do you think half-immortals are cabbages? In this era, only the top cultivators have a slim chance to step into half-immortal realm. Ordinary people, even those peerless transcendents, would find it difficult to step into half-immortal realm. Now, after Long Dade shouted, the group of emperors of the dragon race were dumbfounded. Someone gently poked Long Dade and whispered in his ear, old ancestor, there are no half-immortals in the dragon race. Bullshit. That old dragon looks like a half-immortal to me. Where is he? Long Dade squinted his eyes and said, quickly call him over. The old patriarch went to the front line to defend against the vanguard of Yang Three Realms. Someone said, now there are no experts in the dragon race. Only us emperors are left. Upon hearing this, Long Dade furrowed his brows slightly. Then he looked at Jiang Chun and spoke solemnly. I attacked too hastily, and there was an error in the operation of the extraordinary power in my body. I won't accompany you to the Black Buddha branch. After saying that, Long Dade turned around and was about to leave. Can you be more reliable? Jiang Chun grabbed Long Dade's dragon horn and said angrily, you still want to leave today? Quickly get ready and follow me to the Black Buddha faction. Boss, we don't have any experts here. There must be transcendence in the Buddhist faction, Long Dade said with an unwilling expression. However, since Jiang Chun has spoken, Long Dade has no choice but to go. Just like this, the group of people rested for a while, then tore the void and set off towards the Black Buddha faction. Half a day later, when they arrived at the mountain gate of the Black Buddha faction, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. The Black Buddha mountain gate which was originally magnificent but full of dark aura, was now razed to the ground. There were corpses and blood everywhere. Jiangchen even saw a transcendent on the verge of death. As for the rest of the Black Buddha faction, they were all dead. What's going on? Who did this? Everyone was bewildered. Who did this? After all, there were still a few corpses of Buddhas in the mountain gate of the Black Buddha lineage. This meant that the Buddhists had indeed sent experts to protect the Black Buddha lineage, but they had all been killed. Then, who was the one who did it? Was it a group of people or a few people? Or perhaps the person? Old Patriarch. Patriarch? Suddenly, the dragon monarch exclaimed. They saw an old man with golden hair and beard standing among the ruins in the depths of the Black Buddha lineage. Beneath his feet was a Buddhist Buddha who was on the verge of death. However, the aura he exuded was still extremely terrifying. He had reached the peak of the transcendent realm. However, such a powerhouse was now being trampled under the feet of the old clan leader of the Dragon Clan, as expected of the old patriarch of the dragon race. Back then, he used his strength to intimidate the heavenly court. Now, he destroyed the entire Black Buddha lineage all by himself. With him around, the dragon race deserves to be so powerful. The people from the other factions exclaimed. The strength of the old patriarch of the dragon race was too terrifying. Some people even suspected that the old dragon's strength was on par with Di Shintian's. What do you mean by the strength of one person? This is called the strength of one dragon. It has nothing to do with you humans, Long Dade said arrogantly. Then he walked over to the old patriarch of the dragon race and smiled. Old man, no, why are you here? Old patriarch, I had nothing to do, so I came here for a stroll. The old patriarch of the dragon race said. When he looked at Long Dade, he smiled kindly. When he said that, Long Dade felt goosebumps all over his body. Why did you destroy a top faction when you had nothing better to do? However, Long Dade reacted quickly. The old patriarch was probably worried about his safety. Therefore, he came here in advance to deal with the Black Buddha lineage. I'm leaving soon. From now on, the dragon race will be in your hands. The old patriarch of the dragon race sighed. He looked into the distance, as if he could see the scenery beyond the endless void. Leaving? Where are you going? Long Dade asked curiously. Di Shintian has appeared. Then it's time for the group of people from back then to appear. The old patriarch of the dragon race said, We're going to war again. For the sake of our homeland, we have to leave. Then he came up to Jiangchen with Long Dade. He even nodded at Jiangchen to salute him in front of everyone. This scene truly shocked everyone. Who was the old patriarch of the dragon race? He was an expert from the same era as Di Shintian. His status and seniority were so high that not many people in this world could compare to him. When ordinary people faced the old patriarch of the dragon race, they would at least bow to him. But now, he was bowing to Jiangchen. Everyone was shocked, but Jiangchen was calm. He knew that he must have known the old patriarch of the dragon race in one of his lifetimes. According to seniority, Jiangchen would only be older than him. Old patriarch, there's no need to be so polite. I've lost all my memories. I'm no longer the me of the past, but the me of this lifetime, Jiangchen said. You'll return? The old patriarch of the dragon race said. If you return, don't forget about the dragon race. Of course. Jiangchen nodded. After saying that, a trace of doubt flashed in Jiangchen's eyes. He asked, You're going far away? Where are you going? The 3 realms of Yang. The old patriarch of the dragon race's expression froze. Let the extraordinary beings of the great wide world resist the vanguard of the 3 realms of Yang. The real powerhouses of the 3 realms of Yang will have to rely on us old bones. Sigh. Time has passed, and the world has changed. Not many of those who fought with us are left. The old patriarch sighed. When Jiangchen heard that, for some reason, a trace of vicissitudes and sadness appeared in his heart. Perhaps it came from his soul. Dragon Patriarch, aren't you doing something wrong this time? Can you give the Buddhist sect an explanation? At this moment, Rays of Buddhist light soared in the surroundings, and dozens of Buddhas appeared. They were either standing or sitting, and Buddhist light lingered around their bodies. There were also sounds of chanting scriptures, as if the gods of the heavens were chanting scriptures in unison. The momentum was very vast, as if millions of gods had descended. Waves of pressure descended, and under the benevolent putua, there was actually killing intent hidden. I'm already being merciful by not destroying the Buddhist sect. The Dragon Patriarch said disdainfully, if the Buddhist sect doesn't want to exist in this world, just say the word. I'll naturally destroy you. As soon as these words were said, Jiang Chun was really shocked. Was the strength of the Dragon Patriarch really that terrifying? Could he destroy the entire Buddhist sect with his own strength? The juniors are fighting. Why do you, a prehistoric almighty, have to make a move? Isn't this breaking the rules? A Buddhist said as he held a Buddhist seal. When his eyes opened and closed, there seemed to be a 9-grade lotus platform floating. Chapter 13:25. There were many Buddhist powerhouses in the surroundings. Their pressure covered the sky, but it was difficult for them to break through the Dragon Patriarch's barrier. He had single-handedly protected everyone. Furthermore, when he looked at the group of Buddhist experts, his eyes were filled with disdain. Just as he had said, if the Buddhist sect wanted to be destroyed, all he had to do was to say the word. He could do it. Dragon Patriarch, it's not easy to live from prehistoric times until now. Don't make a mistake. Your battlefield is not here. Now that the great wide world is empty and we're all old, it's time to give this world to the young people. Why should we, the older generation, interfere when the young people are fighting? A few Buddhas spoke one after another, expressing their thoughts and opinions. At the same time, they were also tactfully telling the old patriarch that it was time for him to go to war. The old chieftain didn't say anything, but Jiang Qin was annoyed when he heard what he had said. He looked at the Buddhas around him and said in a deep voice, the old patriarch is going to war, but what about you Buddhists? You talk about being merciful to the world and delivering all living beings from torment, but are you talking about internal strife? Let me ask you, when the war starts, will anyone from the Buddhist sect go to war? As soon as he said that, the Buddhas were silent for a while. Then, a Buddha wearing a colorful kasaya chanted a Buddhist name and said, everything in the world has its own arrangements. The Buddhist sect is protecting this world, not going to war. Is that so? Then may I ask what you protected? Did you protect the 6 realms? Or did you protect the Black Buddha lineage? Or, in that battle back then, did the Buddhist sect protect the great wide world? Jiang Qin asked one after another. He knew a lot of things now, and he also knew that there was a battle back then where the 3 realms of Yin and Yang used the great wide world as a battlefield and almost destroyed this place. In that battle, he had not heard of any Buddhist powerhouses making a move. Now, the people of the Buddhist sect stood on the moral high ground, but what they did was shameful. All right, since you said that the older generation can't interfere, then from today onwards, the Buddhist sect will close the mountain gate. The old patriarch's eyes narrowed, and his voice was cold as he said, if you don't close the mountain, I can help you. Dragon Patriarch, your murderous nature is too strong, and your evil aura is too strong. The Buddha covered in colorful light spoke again. Why don't you join the Buddhist sect and purify your evil aura? Boom! As soon as he said that, a terrifying aura erupted from the Dragon Clan leader. He stared at the Buddha that was enveloped by the 7-colored light as killing intent appeared in his eyes. He even shouted angrily, a mere Buddhist wants to redeem me. Dragon Clan leader, we are doing this for your own good, the Buddha said again. At this moment, Jiang Qin closed his eyes. He no longer wanted to see the faces of these Buddhas, let alone listen to what they had to say. Jiang Qin felt that these Buddhas were merely devils draped in Buddhist light. Zhang Lu and the others also thought the same. They even felt that these Buddhas were not as real as the evil race. For my own good? The Dragon Clan leader chuckled and struck out with his palm. His palm turned into a dragon claw and suppressed the 7-colored Buddha. Then, he brought the Buddha in front of him and stepped on his face. He asked with a faint smile, do you want to die? At this moment, Many Buddhas around the Dragon Clan leader shouted angrily. At the same time, the Buddha under the Dragon Clan leader's foot also changed greatly. There was obvious fear in his eyes. He was trembling, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and the seven-colored light on his body dimmed a lot. That's it? Still a Buddhist sect? The Dragon Clan leader said contemptuously, I naturally respect the real eminent monks of Buddhism. But you are just devils under the banner of Buddhism. After saying that, the Dragon Clan leader suddenly stomped hard and crushed the Buddha's head in front of everyone. Even his soul was destroyed by this stomp. Dragon Clan leader, you killed an eminent monk of Buddhism. Today, you want to start a war with Buddhism? Since the establishment of Buddhism, we have never declined. The depth of our foundation is not something you can imagine. Old clan leader, you have to think carefully. At this moment, the surrounding Buddhas were completely angry. They were no longer as calm as before. The Buddhist light on their bodies dimmed, and their evil aura grew. There was even killing intent in their eyes. So, you are just a bunch of devils under the banner of Buddhism. Jiang Chun curled his lips. However, Jiang Chun was worried for the Dragon Clan leader. One should know that the surrounding Buddhas were very strong. If they joined forces, the Dragon Clan leader would have a hard time. Moreover, if they were to fight, the Dragon Clan leader would not have the time to protect them. By then, Jiang Chun and the rest would be in trouble. What Buddhism? The people of the Pure Land are still here. How dare you call yourselves Buddhism? What a joke! Suddenly, a purple light descended from the sky. Di Shintian landed beside the Dragon Clan leader. The two of them were old friends. They had known each other since prehistoric times. They had even fought together in the three realms of yin and yang. The two of them looked at each other and nodded. Then, Di Shintian swept out his palm. Wherever his palm passed, the stars and the sky collapsed, and the Buddhas were swept down. A few of them even exploded in the air. Not even a trace of ash was left. Buddhism. If you can represent Buddhism, then what's wrong with destroying Buddhism? After a few breaths, a blazing flame came from afar. The entire sky was dyed red. Everyone looked over and saw a vermilion bird that was tens of thousands of miles in size. Wherever it passed, the great Tao was burned. My clan's old ancestor. Old ancestor? The vermilion bird clan's emperors exclaimed. They had seen their old ancestor in the portrait. However, they did not expect their old ancestor to still be alive. Where were the Buddhists when we were in battle? Back then, when the boundless world was used as a battlefield and we fought against the three realms of yin and yang, where was Buddhism? Who do you think you are? At this moment, a long howl was heard. Then, a man that was emitting a divine light rain walked in the air. He had a human form. However, there was a shadow of a phoenix behind him. My clan's old ancestor. Oh my God! What's happening today? The strongest forces of the various clans have appeared. The members of the Phoenix clan were shocked. They knew that their old ancestor was still alive. However, they did not expect him to come here today. The strongest old ancestors of the three major demon clans were here. Even the old ancestor of the Monarch clan was here. At this moment, the people of Buddhism were silent. Their faces were filled with fear. Long time no see. After a few breaths, a maniacal laughter was heard from the west. The voice was filled with arrogance and unruliness. There was even a trace of evil in it. Then, everyone saw an old monk wearing a tattered kasaya. He was holding a wine pot in his left hand and a leg of meat in his right hand. He was wobbling as he walked toward them. There was no Buddhist light on him. When Di Shintian and the rest saw him, they lowered their heads slightly. They cupped their fists and greeted him. Greetings, Senior Monk Rotten Wine. Chapter 13:26. He was wearing a tattered kasaya, holding wine in one hand and meat in the other. He was completely different from the Buddhists they usually saw. Among the 8 precepts of Buddhism, one of them abstained from wine and meat. However, this monk broke the precepts in front of everyone. However, the 3 old patriarchs were very respectful to this monk. With their status, lowering their heads, and cupping their hands in salute was definitely considered a great gesture. The Pure Land doesn't care about the secular world or the branches of Buddhism. I didn't expect it to become like this. Monk Rotten Wine came in front of everyone and glanced at the group of suppressed Buddhists with a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He came from the Pure Land and had cultivated Buddhism since he was young. He was righteous, unlike the group of Buddhists in front of him. They had completely distorted the original meaning of Buddhism. They knew it was wrong, but they still insisted on doing it. However, Monk Rotten Wine came in the end. He came on behalf of the Pure Land. He didn't plead for mercy for these Buddhists, but the 3 patriarchs of the demon clans let them go. That was because Monk Rotten Wine was here. That meant that the 3 patriarchs of the demon clans weren't people who killed indiscriminately. Gulp, gulp, gulp. At that moment, Monk Rotten Wine drank to his heart's content and then took a bite of a piece of meat. However, surprisingly, the wine and meat slipped out of his body and fell to the ground when they entered his mouth. Could this be? The wine and meat pass through the intestines, but the Buddha stays in the heart? Jiang Chun said in surprise. Young man, how can wine and meat pass through the intestines? Monk Rotten Wine said with a smile. There was a hint of bitterness in his voice. He pointed at his body and said, I'm only left with a wisp of soul. Without a body, how can I receive these wine and meat? A wisp of soul? No way? The aura is the power of a half-immortal. How can it only be a wisp of soul? Jiang Chun and the others were shocked. Wasn't this too terrifying? It was just a wisp of soul, but the aura it emitted was at the half-immortal level. If Monk Rotten Wine was complete, then wouldn't his cultivation be at the true, immortal level? Monk Rotten Wine was a true immortal in prehistory. The Dragon Clan leader explained, in that battle, almost all of the true immortals died in battle. The number of survivors is less than one hand. The fact that Monk Rotten Wine was able to survive with a strand of his soul is already a great fortune. What? Even a true immortal died in battle? Monk Rotten Wine was a true immortal in prehistory. Everyone cried out in alarm. According to the words of a true immortal, Monk Rotten Wine was a true Buddha in prehistoric times. How could such a figure who stood above all living beings and transcended the 6 paths of reincarnation die in battle? How could there be a wisp of soul left? What exactly happened in that battle? The beginning of every era is a baptism of war. This era is no exception, Monk Rotten Wine said with a kind smile. He looked at everyone, nodded slightly, and praised, It's good to have all of you in this life. Rotten Wine Monk, is there no way for you to recover? Dragon Clan leader asked. If one's immortal soul is shattered, how can one recover? Unless one can enter above the heavens, it will be difficult to restore it with the great Tao of this world. Monk Rotten Wine sighed. The immortal soul was the foundation of a true immortal. However, after that battle, not to mention this world, even the grand Taos of the 3 dimensions of yin and yang had been destroyed. From then on, no one could become an immortal. Without the material to become an immortal, how could one repair one's immortal soul? The world from now on will be the world of you young people. Do whatever you want. If someone wants to take advantage of their seniority, then this wisp of soul of mine doesn't mind moving around, Monk Rotten Wine said. Then he glanced at the mountain gate of the Black Buddha lineage that had already turned into ruins. A trace of disgust flashed in his eyes as he said, Buddha is Buddha. There's no such thing as Black Buddha or White Buddha. These people are just depraved, but they still want to use the name of Buddhism to show off in the world. Dead is dead. It's no big deal. After saying that, Monk Rotten Wine took another sip of wine. The wine dripped from his body. He let out a long sigh, and his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. After a few breaths, he turned around and looked into the distance. He said slowly, It's time for you guys to go to war. I'll leave this great wide world to the Pure Land. When the Tao leaves, the Buddha leaves home. If the Tao doesn't return, the Buddha won't die. Monk Rotten Wine said, Don't worry. The Pure Land isn't here to protect Buddhism. It's only here to protect this great wide world. Even if there's only a wisp of remnant soul or a wisp of consciousness left, we'll still guard this place to the death." At this point, Monk Rotten Wine said jokingly, "You guys have earned all the good reputation, but the Buddhist sect has fallen into disgrace. The Pure Land doesn't compete with the secular world," the Dragon Clan leader said with a smile. Following that, the prehistoric figures caught up with each other for a while. In the end, the three demon clan leaders left, and so did Deshantian. Only Jiangchun and the others were left, as well as Monk Rotten Wine. He looked at everyone and asked, "Is there right or wrong in this world?" Many people were dumbfounded when they heard this. Right or wrong? How could they differentiate? They had different standpoints and different thoughts. There was no right or wrong in this world. The only thing that was wrong was this world. If there were no living beings, there would be no right or wrong, right? There's no right or wrong. If there's anything wrong, then this world is the biggest mistake, Jiangchen said. That's right. If this world is heartless, what living beings would there be in this world? Without living beings, everything is empty. How can there be right or wrong? Monk Rotten Wine nodded. Even though your memories have not returned, your soul remains the same. Your thoughts are still the same as before. Let's go. Do what we need to do. The world is changing, people are changing, and the Grand Tao is also changing. Monk Rotten Wine said, "Perhaps it's time for this era to recover." With that, the monk disappeared and turned into strands of golden Buddhist light, leaving behind only a pot of wine and a thigh. Zhang Chen's group stood there in silence, pondering over the monk's last words. The era was changing, and it was time for recovery? Could it be that this era was different from the past? Let's go to the true feather tribe. After 10 breaths, Zhang Chen's expression became serious. He waved his hand and tore through the void, flying towards the true feather tribe. Behind him, the evil race, the imperial race, the 3 demon clans, and Jiang Lu's group followed. Their expressions were complicated, and their hearts were shaken. Their gazes were fixated on Jiang Chun. In fact, many of them were confused as to why they listened to Jiang Chun and followed Jiang Chun. But they couldn't figure it out. Perhaps there was a type of person in this world. Regardless of whether they were good or evil, strong or weak, there would always be people who would listen to them and follow them. "You're here." Half a day later, Jiang Chen's group walked out of the void and arrived at the entrance of the true feather tribe. They saw a young man standing there. He was a high king with an extremely powerful aura. He looked at Jiang Chen's group with murderous intent, but his aura was very calm. Chapter 13:27. This young man was extraordinary. Just by standing there, he was like a mountain blocking in front of everyone. The killing intent in his eyes was undisguised, but he wore a polite smile on his face. "Master Rotten Wine has been here before," the youth said. "Then, let's settle this in the way of youngsters." "Oh, how?" Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow and said coldly, "The destruction of the 6 realms is something that can be settled by us youngsters. So many people have died. Is the true feather race going to just let it go like this? The older generation will not act. Today, the younger generation of the true feather race will fight," the youth said. "Kill. We will all die, or you will all die." "Kill. Naturally, we will kill. However, I want to know the intentions of the upper echelon of the true feather race," Jiang Chen said softly. His eyes shone brightly as his killing intent soared. Revenge, of course, was to kill. However, some things could not be resolved by killing. Sometimes, a single sentence or an attitude could resolve everything. Just as Jiang Chen had said, he did not want to kill. After all, the 6 realms had been destroyed. Even if he killed here, he would not revive the living beings of the 6 realms. What he wanted now was a single sentence from the upper echelon of the true feather race. He wanted to hear if the true feather race would repent and apologize. This is how the world works. The strong prey on the weak. The true feather race has done nothing wrong, the youth said. Today, I represent the true feather race. I represent the 6-winged god race. At this moment, several dozen youths with 6 wings on their backs walked out of the true feather race's mountain gate. These people were all emperors. Some even gave off the aura of transcendence. These people were from the six-winged god race. The six-winged god race and the true feather race came from the same source. When one race was in trouble, the other would naturally help. Since that is the case, there is nothing more to say. Jiang Qin's eyes flashed coldly. Even now, the true feather race and the six-winged god race still did not show any signs of remorse. Since that was the case, then it was better to destroy them. Kill! Kill! At this moment, Jiang Qin waved his hand, and without any superfluous words, was the first to charge forward. In the next instant, the people behind him charged out like tigers and wolves, instantly clashing with the young emperors of the six-winged races. You killed the living beings of the six realms and destroyed the worlds of the six realms. You deserve death. Today, we will settle old and new debts together. It's time to seek justice for the six realms. Along with a series of roars, the eyes of Zhonglu and the others were red with killing intent. They went deep into the enemy's ranks and attacked without restraint, completely abandoning defense. The anger and resentment that had accumulated in his heart completely erupted at this moment. At this moment, two youngsters from the True Feather clan and the Six-Wing clan were fighting Jiang Qin fiercely. The two of them were extremely powerful, especially the young man from the Six-Wing clan. An eighth wing had appeared on his back. Each time he attacked, the wings on the young man's back would flap out streams of great light. The power of order and rules were like sharp blades, bombarding Jiang Qin's body. However, Jiang Qin's extraordinary physical body was not something they could imagine. At this moment, Jiang Qin's left hand formed a dragon seal, while his right hand formed a tiger seal. As he waved his fists, the light from his fists bloomed like stars. He used the power of his physical body to attack the great Tao and rules of order. Everywhere he passed, the void collapsed, and even the heavens and earth trembled. How did this guy cultivate? How can a godly venerable have such combat strength? It's too terrifying. The two youths fighting Jiang Qin were shocked, but there was no fear in their eyes. To them, no matter how strong Jiang Qin was, his cultivation level was still too low. They were confident that they could kill Jiang Qin. However, after half an hour, Jiang Qin was truly enraged. The myriad change, celestial lamp appeared above his head, and under the light of the lamp, a sword ray that seemed to be able to cut through the past and present rushed out. The sword ray was resplendent and fell like the Milky Way. Wherever it passed, not only was the True Feather Clan's youth cut in half, but the True Feather Clan's mountain gate was also blasted open. If not for the experts of the True Feather Clan holding the fort and destroying Jiang Qin's sword ray, the entire True Feather Clan's mountain gate would have been destroyed. Space-time division. Suddenly, an ancient voice came from the True Feather Clan's mountain gate. Following that, Jiang Qin saw the people around him disappear one by one, as if they had been teleported to other places. A few breaths later, Jiang Qin's expression changed drastically. A surge of spatial energy wrapped around him, and with a flash of light, he was teleported to a place filled with lava. There were more than a dozen True Feather and six-winged emperors waiting for him. Did you really think that our two clans were unprepared? Space-time division will send you to different space-time planes. You will be fighting alone, while we will gang up on you. Huh? Not only are the living beings of the six realms weak, even their intelligence is ridiculously low. Did you really think that our two clans were unprepared? Jiang Qin couldn't help but feel worried as he faced more than 10 emperors of the True Feather and six-winged divine race. He was not worried about himself, but about Wakako and the others. I have to end this quickly, Jiang Qin thought to himself. His aura erupted, and he no longer hid his strength. With the roars of dragons and tigers, the three Tao souls and the lantern bearers supporting him, Jiang Qin took a step forward, as if he was a king who had descended from the heavens. He slowly raised his hand, and runes appeared on his palm, forming an array in an instant. Then his palms suddenly fell, and the formation pressed down, completely suppressing the dozen or so youths. The youths began to resist, but the array was filled with sword rays. It was the myriad transformations heaven slash. At the same time, the vines of the Emperor's vines wrapped around the array like chains, making it unbreakable. Streaks of inextinguishable fire rained down, burning everything mercilessly. Even the emperors were unable to extinguish the inextinguishable fire, and were eventually reduced to ashes. If not for the heavenly sacred scripture and tiger soul skill, my cultivation level would have reached the emperor level long ago, Jiangchen said softly, without a trace of emotion in his eyes. He looked at the group of people within the array and said softly, with my supreme god cultivation level, I am already invincible in the same realm. Kid, so what if you kill us? This is a special space-time, and you cannot leave here. Your friends will all die. The two clan's members were shouting in anger and screaming miserably. They couldn't block Jiang Chen's all-out attack at all. Jiang Chen was still as calm as ever. He shook his head and said, I don't know about the others, but my disciples and brothers will definitely not die. Chapter 13:28. Jiang Chen did not show any mercy. He killed all the emperors of the two clans and left no one alive. Then he observed his surroundings. What he saw was no longer magma, but streaks of Taoist patterns. These were the Taoist patterns of heaven and earth. Someone had used a special method to condense them into a domain. These domains were connected to each other like a maze and divided into small spaces. To be able to control the Taoist patterns of heaven and earth, only an extraordinaire can do this, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. Jiang Chen did not expect there to be an extraordinaire among the Jinyu clan and the Six-Wing clan. Moreover, this extraordinaire dared to make a move. If Monk Rottenwine, Di Shantian, and the others knew about this, things would definitely get out of hand. However, Jiang Chen did not intend to trouble Di Shantian and the others at this moment. Today he had already made a move. There was nothing to hide. After hiding his strength for so long, Jiang Chen felt that it was time for him to make a move. Otherwise, wouldn't he be one less person in this world? This extraordinaire did not dare to make a move. He could only use some tricks behind my back, Jiang Chen said softly. His eyes were shining, and his body was surrounded by divine light. In his hand, a wisp of bright light turned into a sharp sword. The sword light shone in all directions as if it was going to cut through the past and present. He stared at everything around him until he found a blank spot among the Taoist patterns. Then, he slashed out with his sword. Boom! Along with a loud explosion, the sword light slashed through the air and slashed apart the space around it. Then, a white space appeared in front of him. There were glaciers everywhere, and snowflakes were floating in the air. However, the glaciers had been shattered. The snowflakes in the sky were stained with blood-red light. Wakako stood alone in the ruins of the glaciers. His body was covered with wounds. His glabella had been cut open. Purple-gold blood dripped from his body and dyed the surrounding snow red. Below his feet, more than 10 emperors of the Six-Wing clan were lying on the ground. They were dead. Boss, I've never embarrassed you, right? Wakako saw Jiang Chen. He turned around with difficulty and grinned. His lips and teeth were covered in blood. I've never embarrassed myself, Jiang Chen whispered. He walked to Wakako's side and sent a strand of the inextinguishable flame into his body. He patted his shoulder and said, Rest well. Leave the rest to me. Wakako didn't say anything. He just stood there with his eyes closed and began to heal himself. Then, Jiang Chen cut open the space again and jumped into another space. He constantly shuttled through various spaces and found Jiang Lu and the others. He also found Bai Fengyu and the others. He gathered all these people together and then slashed open the space again. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Jiang Chen found most of the people, but some of them were still alive, and some of them had become cold corpses. The evil race and the emperor race suffered heavy losses. Almost half of them died. As for Jiang Chen's brothers and disciples, although they were seriously injured, none of them died. It was just as Jiang Chen had said. Even if everyone died, his brothers and apprentices wouldn't die. This was not only because Jiangchen trusted them, but also because Jiangchen knew that the people around him were not weaker than anyone else. They couldn't fight against 100 people, but they could at least fight against 10 people. Where are the great virtues? 2 hours later, Jiangchen was counting the number of people, and his expression changed greatly. This was because he had neglected a few great virtues. Have you seen Long Dade and the others? Jiangchen asked. When everyone heard this, they shook their heads. They had been separated into various small spaces and didn't know where Long Dade and the others had gone. At this moment, the space-time division technique was still there. This meant that the battle in several spaces had not ended. They are still fighting. Jiangchen's expression changed greatly. His eyes shone brightly. The ever-changing heavenly lamp above his head shone with thousands of divine flames. In the next moment, Jiangchen stretched out his hand. His 5 fingers were like sharp swords as he slashed at the void. Everywhere he passed, space-time collapsed. In the end, Jiangchen saw the great virtues in the space-time furthest away from them. They are dead. No way. They are really dead? At this moment, everyone's expression changed greatly. Some of them even exclaimed in surprise. This was especially so for the emperors of the 3 demon tribes. They saw Long Dade, Huang Dade, and Bird Dade sealed in ice. A pitch-black dagger was nailed between their eyebrows. The dagger was covered in obscure runes and emanated a terrifying aura of death. At the same time, Yao Dade and Jian Dade were lying on the ground in front of the 3 great virtues. The ground was covered in blood, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Very good. At this moment, Jiangchen's expression became miraculously calm. There was not even a trace of killing intent on his body. He only said softly, "Very good." Whoosh! Then Jiangchen flew into the air. In a few breaths' time, he entered the space where the great virtuous beings were. Boss is angry. The calmer he is, the scarier he is. Jiangchen and the others were shocked. They rarely saw such a calm Jiangchen. They knew that if Jiangchen was too calm, then it was undoubtedly the calm before the storm. 3 demon tribes' ancestor realm, plus an immortal herb and a sword principal flower. At this moment, in that space-time, a young man shrouded in holy light was looking down at the great virtues below him. He had 12 wings on his back. Feathers as bright as stars floated around his body. When he opened and closed his eyes, the sun, moon, and stars were rotating in reverse. Did you kill them? After a few breaths, Jiangchen arrived and stood in front of the great virtues. He looked up at the young man in the sky. No, no, no. How could I bear to kill them? The young man chuckled. The immortal herb, the sword principal flower, and the 3 demon tribes' ancestor realm. These are all great supplements. If I can use them to refine demons, I might be able to break through the shackles and become an immortal in this life. Not dead? Jiangchen said softly with a smile. Then, he reached out his hands, and the 3 Tao souls appeared. Protect them well, Jiangchen said softly. His 3 doctrine souls were all conscious, and they could understand what he was saying. Then, Jiangchen slowly rose to the sky. When he was level with the young man, he asked, "Who are you?" I don't think there is someone like you in the Jinyu tribe and the 6-wing tribe, right? Although the young man in front of him was an Emperor Realm cultivator, his aura was so terrifying that it was not inferior to that of an extraordinary. It could be said that this person was the most powerful and terrifying among all the people of the same generation that Jiangchen had met. My name is Jinyu, the young man said proudly. I was born from the fusion of the 2 holy suns. I'm not someone that ordinary people like you can fight against. P.S. Jiangchen is about to explode. Chapter 13:29. Fusing 2 saints? Jiangchen frowned slightly. He already felt that this young man was very strange. Now that he heard this, he was even more surprised. True Feather and 6-Winged originally came from the same source. For this battle, the saints of our 2 clans were willing to give up themselves and fuse together. True Feather raised his eyebrows and said, Today, I am invincible in the imperial realm. Even if an extraordinaire comes, I won't be afraid. Oh, Jiang Chun said softly. He suddenly understood that this true feather was the product of the fusion of the true feather clan and the six-winged god clan saints. Hybrid? Jiang Chun said. As soon as these words came out, the true divine feather was furious. He stared at Jiang Chun. His voice was extremely cold, and the killing intent on his body turned into strong winds that swept out. We are the descendants of the true gods, the fusion of two clans. We are a supreme and sacred existence. How can an ordinary person like you bully us? True Feather shouted angrily. He was indeed very strong. The divine light around him was dazzling, as if he was the strongest god in the world. In the distance, Wakako and the others were also watching, all of them looking worried. They had always believed in Jiang Chun, whether it was in the godless continent or the ninth heaven divine world. No matter how strong the opponent was, they always believed that Jiang Chun could win. But this time, they really did not have the confidence. That was because True Feather's aura was too terrifying, enough to be on par with an extraordinaire. No matter how strong Jiang Chun was, his cultivation was still there. He was only a divine venerable. Could a divine venerable be able to defeat an extraordinaire? In the eyes of many, it was obviously impossible. Boss is a miracle. I believe in him, Jiang Lu said seriously. At this moment, Jiang Chun was also staring at True Feather. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He pointed at the 3 Tao souls and said, "Today, even if I don't use these 3 Tao souls, I can still suppress you. Do you believe me?" True Feather could not help but be stunned. He really couldn't understand where Jiang Chun's confidence came from. Without the Emperor's Vine, the Immortal Bird, and the 1,000-change heavenly lamp, what did Jiang Chun have left? Could it be that Jiang Chun was relying on his own strength? This was undoubtedly bullshit. I don't want to waste words with you. I'm going to kill you, destroy them, and then refine these great virtues. I'm going to become a true immortal in this world. The true divine Feather's face was full of arrogance. He even told Jiang Chun that Jinyu and the six-winged race had been waiting for Jiang Chun and the others. They had been coveting the great virtuous beings for a long time, but they never had the chance to do so. And this time, for the two races, it was a great opportunity, a great fortune and opportunity. The truth is, I've been cultivating for so long, but I still don't know how strong I am, Jiang Chun whispered. His eyes were filled with confusion. This was because he rarely fought. Sometimes, he didn't even need to do anything himself. Even when he encountered some enemies, he didn't need to use his full strength. Over time, Jiang Chun became lazy. He didn't know how strong he was because he had never used his full strength. Jiang Chun hadn't used any of his trump cards, any of his methods, until now. However, Jiang Chun knew very well that he should be quite strong. Let's give it a try today, Jiang Chun whispered. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chun's body started shaking. Many spirits fell out of his body and merged with him. At the same time, his ribs began to shine brightly. Not only were there roses blooming, but there were also thorny flowers. His spine was like a dragon, and his ribs were like a tiger. As the dragon and tiger roared, flowers bloomed around him. At this moment, Jiang Chun's hair was dancing in the wind, and his eyes were red. The murderous aura that had been suppressed in his body for a long time appeared and turned into a great murderous aura in an instant. A layer of black shadow was floating around his body. It was the lamp bearer. In the end, Jiang Chun swung his fists. He seemed to be very satisfied with his strength and nodded. It's done. Oomph! An ant looking at the sky. You want to slay a dragon? The real god's feather sneered. The 12 wings on its back flapped, and rays of light exploded. The light seemed to be formed by endless runes of the Tao, and carried with it the true meaning of the two kinds of techniques. Everywhere it passed, a heavenly bird descended. After a long cry, the heavenly bird landed, and its beak was aimed between Jiang Chun's brows. A mere bird dares to fight against a dragon? Jiang Chun whispered and stood where he was calmly. When the heavenly bird landed before him, he let out a long cry, and an earth-shattering dragon's roar exploded. The dragon's roar exploded in the sky and reverberated in all directions. It was as if an ancient dragon was roaring. Under the dragon's roar, the heavenly bird exploded in an instant. At the same time, ripples spread out and tore through the void, approaching the real god's feather. Oh! The real god's feather was slightly surprised but did not panic. He knew that Jiang Chun was very strong, but that was all. To him, he was invincible against those below the extraordinary realm. At this moment, the real god's feather raised one hand, and runes burst out from his palm. Just after this, the space around Jiang Chun cracked open like a mirror, and a thunderstorm appeared in the void. This was a secret technique of the real feather race, and was related to the supreme law of space. The law of space? Jiang Chun said in a low voice. He felt something, and he lowered his head to take a look at his chest. There was a rose there that was emitting a radiant glow. Then Jiang Chun extended his hand. A rose rose in his hand. He seemed to have understood something. He said in a low voice, "A fierce tiger sniffs the rose in my heart. Is this what it means?" Buzz. The moment he said that with Jiang Chun as the center, the world seemed to have stopped. Then Jiang Chun took a step forward and avoided the law of space. What happened just now? The real god's feather was shocked. Just now, when Jiang Chun picked up the rose, he could clearly feel that the surrounding time was chaotic. No, to be more precise, it was still, although it was only for a moment, it involved the law of time. No matter how angry you are, there will always be a moment when you calm down, and that moment is like a rose. I call it eternity. Jiang Chun was getting more and more enlightened. Not until then did he realize what was hidden in the rose. It was the law of time. Can the eternity blossom once again? Jiang Chun spoke softly and picked up another rose. Buzz. At this moment, the real god's feather's expression changed drastically. He could feel that the world's time had stopped again. However, Jiang Chun didn't want to waste any time. He dashed up to him in an instant. Boom! In the next moment, Jiang Chun punched out. The fist radiance was like the sun and bombarded the real god's feather's body, sending him flying. Blood splattered along the way. But then, Jiang Chun's expression turned serious and his eyes were full of surprise. He's not dead? At this moment, the surrounding time returned to normal. Jiang Chun looked at the real god's feather in surprise and saw that there was not a trace of injury on his body. Not even a feather had fallen. Chapter 1330. Jiang Chun's punch had indeed hit the real divine feather, but the other party did not have a trace of injury. You can control time laws. Although it's only a wisp, it's enough to show disdain for your peers. The real divine feather stood in the distance. Although he was praising Jiang Chun, the contempt in his eyes was not concealed at all. It's just a pity that your power is too weak. It's difficult to hurt me. Once these words came out, Jiang Chun also understood. Although he could temporarily pause time and hit the real divine feather, his power was indeed not enough. It could be said that he could not break through the defense. Today you must die, the real divine feather said contemptuously. From the moment you stepped into this place, your fate was already decided. Is that so? Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. The divine power in his body went berserk. The murderous aura was like a gray flame burning. He attacked again. This time he did not use time laws. His body rushed out like a fierce tiger, rushing in front of the real divine feather in an instant. With a punch, the light of the sun and moon flickered in the fist light. There were even wisps of chaotic aura rising and falling. I said before, your power is not enough to hurt me, the real divine feather said contemptuously. His white jade-like palm pushed out, seemingly very casually. Boom! However, when the fist and palm collided, the real divine feather's expression changed after an explosion. He was still standing on the spot, but Jiang Chun was sent flying. However, cracks appeared on the real divine feather's palm, and white jade-like blood dripped down. He was a little shocked. He could not believe that a godly, venerable cultivator could break through his defense. "Looks like chaotic aura is still useful," Jiang Chun said softly. "Chaotic aura? You are indeed a little interesting." The real divine feather came back to his senses. Divine light flowed on his body, and his injuries healed instantly. Then he did not say anything else. The 12 wings on his back flapped up. Waves of divine power burst out, mixed with space laws, as if to tear this side of the world apart. The sky was filled with wild winds, accompanied by gusts of astral wind whistling. There were also space laws descending like invisible sharp blades. Jiang Qin's body shook. He was trapped on the spot by an invisible force, as if he was trapped in a space, unable to move. "Condense!" At this moment, Jiang Chun didn't dare to hesitate. His rose blossomed, and after a brief pause, he barely avoided the attack. But using time law consecutively, Jiang Qin's body was somewhat unable to bear it. After all, this was the pinnacle of power. With Jiang Qin's cultivation, if he used it continuously, he would not be able to withstand it. At this moment, Jiang Qin's face was somewhat pale. His lips were tightly shut, and there was a mouthful of blood in his throat. "Don't hold it in anymore. Use the power of the highest laws. With your realm, you simply won't be able to withstand it." The feather true divinity's consciousness was very sharp. He immediately sensed Jiang Qin's state. Hearing this, Jiang Qin curled his lips and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, he wiped the corner of his mouth with his hand and looked at the real god's feather. That was just a warm-up. What's next is the real deal. As soon as these words came out, the real divine feather laughed wildly. He felt that Jiang Chun was bragging. In his eyes, how strong could a divine venerable realm cultivator be? Even if he had mastered a trace of time law, he would not be a match for him. One had to know that he was a living being born from the fusion of the power of two holy suns. He could be said to be the strongest emperor. Chi! At this moment, Jiang Chun stretched out his hand. The life-greedy spirit appeared in his hand, and a monstrous, murderous aura exploded. The murderous aura accompanied the murderous aura. Jiang Qin's body turned gray, and within the gray, there were traces of blood. Jiang Qin's aura changed. He was like a demon from purgatory. He took a step forward, and the wind howled around him. The cries of ghosts were endless. The divine power in his body was burning, and even the chaotic aura was rioting. Vaguely, one could see a trace of chaotic aura turning into an illusory figure standing behind Jiang Qin. That was a clone formed by a trace of chaotic aura. "Kill!" At this moment, Jiang Qin roared. Like a demon, he rushed out with the life-greedy spirit in his hand. "You're just an ant in the divine venerable realm. How can you fight against me?" The real divine feather said disdainfully. He slowly raised his hand and gently pushed it out. A palm print burst forth. He was still so arrogant. He had not used his full strength until now. He seemed to be toying with Jiang Chun. However, this time, the real divine feather's expression changed completely. Jiang Chun rushed over. The life-greedy spirit was like a sword, but it was not a sword. When it landed, it directly shattered the real divine feather's palm print. Whoosh! The sound of air being torn apart was heard. Jiang Chun seemed to have teleported and appeared in front of the real divine feather in an instant. When the attack landed, the violent aura enveloped the real divine feather. Then, the sword and saber were like silver moons, and ruthlessly slashed the real divine feather's body. The real divine feather was too arrogant and too careless previously. As a result, he did not even have time to react to this attack, and could not avoid it in time. When the attack hit, the real divine feather screamed. Half of his body was cut open, and even his soul was obliterated on the spot. Dead? Jiang Qin frowned. Looking at the real divine feather that was cut in half in front of him, he felt that this guy could not be killed so easily. "Boy, you've angered me." Suddenly, the real divine feather's corpse in front of him turned into a rain of light and dissipated. Then, 100 meters away from Jiang Chun, another real divine feather appeared. Its body was unharmed, but the 12 wings on its back were missing a pair at this moment. Missing a pair of wings? Jiang Chun frowned and asked, "Use a pair of wings to exchange for a life? I admit that I underestimated you. But now, you won't have any more chances." The real divine feather roared. His carelessness previously caused him to lose a pair of wings, and the wings to the real divine feather were his own strength, his own Tao fruit. Fortunately, he was strong enough. He thought that losing a pair of wings was not a problem. It was enough to kill Jiang Chun. At this moment, the real divine feather was no longer careless. His divine power burned, and his hands formed a seal. Terrifying spatial laws gathered in his palms. "Do you think I'm stupid?" Jiang Chun said with a strange expression. "Can it really let you condense a seal?" "Buzz!" As his voice fell, Jiang Chun pushed out with one hand. The roses bloomed, and time stopped in an instant. The real divine feather's face was filled with horror. His movements were forced to stop, and he could only watch as Jiang Chun rushed in front of him. Then another attack fell, and the real divine feather's body and soul were cut open again. "It's alive again?" After a few breaths, Jiang Chun saw that the real divine feather not far away had come alive again, but the wings on its back were missing another pair. "There are only 4 pairs of wings left. Your strength has been greatly reduced. How are you going to fight me?" Jiang Chun joked. However, just as these words were said, Jiang Chun's body trembled. His body, who had used time laws consecutively, could no longer bear it. Chapter 1331. Time law was too powerful. Even if those with low cultivation could control it, they would not be able to use it consecutively. Just like now, many cracks had appeared on Jiang Chun's body, and he was on the verge of disintegrating. Even I don't dare to use space law consecutively. With your cultivation, you dare to use time law consecutively? You're purely courting death. The real divine feather said contemptuously. He lost another pair of wings and came back to life. At this moment, his anger was soaring to the sky. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out. Like a flowing light, he showed up in front of Jiang Chun in an instant. At this moment, Jiang Chun's body was unstable and had no time to dodge at all. He was directly hit by the real divine feather's palm. Boom! With a loud explosion, Jiang Chun's body completely exploded. Even a large part of his divine soul and spirit were obliterated. He turned into wisps of starlight, drifting everywhere as if he was about to be extinguished. "Boss! Master!" A group of people in the distance screamed. Bai Fengyu and the rest's eyes were bloodshot, tears flowing down uncontrollably. His body crumbled, his soul turned into a rain of light. He was dead for sure. However, what surprised everyone was that at this moment, a stream of chaotic aura exploded. A youth who looked exactly like Jiang Chun walked out of the chaos. In an instant, the souls drifting around returned to his body. There were even roars erupting from his body, like the sound of Tao. "And I'm alive again?" Jiang Chun was stunned on the spot, also looking confused. He hurriedly looked inside himself and discovered that one of the 3 wisps of chaotic aura had disappeared. Back then, Jiang Chun had 3 wisps of chaotic aura. One of them turned into a clone, sitting cross-legged in his soul. Now that the clone had disappeared, it turned back into the original chaotic aura again. Could it be that a clone is a life? Jiang Chun was shocked. If that was the case, then this chaotic aura was simply a life-saving trump card. The most important thing was that Jiang Chun, who had come back to life, was in perfect condition. Even the strength in his body had returned to its peak state. "You can use your wings to come back to life. Is that so amazing?" Jiang Chun looked at the true divine feather with ridicule and said, "I can do it too. So what? I must kill you today." True divinity feather said coldly. As soon as he said this, Jiang Chun's eyes were full of contempt. Jiang Chun waved his hand and said casually, "Forget it. When you had 12 wings, you couldn't kill me. Now that you only have 8 wings, how can you kill me? With the power of 8 wings, I can still kill you, the real divine feather said. He was very confident in his own strength. However, just as he finished speaking, he saw the roses around Jiangchen blossom, and the power of the laws of time spread out like ripples. The ripples spread very quickly. Before True Divinity Feather could react, he was hit by the laws of time and was instantly frozen in place. Then, Jiangchen arrived in front of True Divinity Feather. The life grubber appeared in his hand, and with a strike, he killed True Divinity Feather again. However, just like before, True Divinity Feather consumed another pair of wings and came back to life again. This time, he only had 6 wings left. You have really angered me. Today, I will kill you at all costs. True Divinity Feather roared. The 6 wings on his back disappeared, turning into streams of light that entered his body. Boom! A series of explosions rang out continuously. True Divinity Feather's aura soared, from an upper emperor to an extraordinary. Previously, True Divinity Feather was at the emperor realm, but his aura was comparable to an extraordinary. His true cultivation had not reached the extraordinary realm. But now, he seemed to have been forced into a corner. He had actually refined his 6 wings and crossed the boundary of the realm. Seeing this, Jiang Chun did not dare to be careless. Dragon roars and tiger roars rang out. His spine seemed to have turned into a real dragon, and the shadow of a dragon appeared behind him. Kill! Kill! At this moment, the two of them roared together. They were really angry. Boom! Next, only a series of explosions could be heard. The two of them had used all their means. The laws of time and space were constantly attacking, completely ignoring the power of the backlash. The people in the distance could not see the battle at all because the time and space there were distorted, as if it had turned into chaos. Half a day later, Jiang Chen's scream was heard. Then the time and space there stabilized. At this moment, everyone held their breaths and stared at the battlefield, not daring to blink. Looking carefully, Jiang Chun was lying on the ground, blood everywhere. His forehead was split open, and half of his body had disappeared. On the other side, True Divinity Feather stood in the air with a proud expression. His expression seemed to represent the result of this battle. Boss lost? Master? No way. Everyone was shocked. In their eyes, Jiang Chun was a miracle, a legend. The word failure should not appear on Jiang Chun, but now they could clearly see that Jiang Chun had fallen, and True Divinity Feather was still standing. Master is still alive. Suddenly, half of Jiang Chen's body twitched, and an extremely weak voice was heard. When the voice fell, everyone saw that True Divinity Feather, which was originally standing proudly in the air, began to emit rays of light, which then turned into a rain of light. Finally, as the wind blew, True Divinity Feather completely dissipated like dust and disappeared with the wind. Master, boss! At this moment, everyone rushed over and helped Jiang Chen up. They circulated the divine power in their bodies to heal him. Jiang Chen lay in by Fenyu's arms with his eyes closed. He smiled and said, "How can Master lose? If I lose, what will you do?" "Master, that's right. If you lose, my faith will crumble." Ruo Xiao sighed. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun recovered slightly. He slowly stretched out a broken palm and landed in front of everyone. In the palm, there was an obscure rune that pulsed like a star and emitted the power of space. This was the space law that he had obtained from True Divinity Feather. One person cannot control 2 supreme powers at the same time. This space law, whoever wants it can have it, Jiang Chan said weakly. When these words came out, everyone was visibly moved. This was the highest level of power, the space law that was named on the same level as time. Since ancient times, not many people had been able to control this kind of power. And now, this great opportunity was right in front of everyone's eyes. We are brothers? Wakako's eyes were burning. Although he really wanted it, after saying this, he shook his head and said, "This space law should not be given to me. and I will not take it. Boss, I don't want it either. It's better to give it to your disciple. Zhang Lu said, they want your disciple, so you should teach it to them. We are brothers, and brothers do not need anything as long as we are all alive. Chapter 1332. Zhang Chun had fainted, and Zhang Lu and the others were guarding him, not allowing anyone to approach. The surrounding space had yet to dissipate, and they were still trapped in that secret art. At this time, within the true feather race, the people of the two races were holding their breaths, waiting for the result of the battle. Some people were very confident that after dividing the battlefield, the emperors of the two races would win. But others frowned. They knew just how powerful Zhang Chun and the others were, especially the emperors of the evil races and emperor races. They were all ruthless individuals. Coupled with the emperors of the three demonic races, this battle would not be easy to win. Suddenly, an ancient and sorrowful sigh came from the depths of the true feather race. This was an ancestor of the true feather race, an old man whose blood energy had dried up. He had reached the end of his life. Earlier, it had been him who had secretly divided the battlefield in the hopes that the two races would win. But at this moment, he could sense the auras of the various dimensions. The emperors of the two races were dead. This sigh represented the passing of an era, the disappearance of a glory, and the complete decline of the two races. Wang. Several breaths later, there was a buzz as the true feather race expert canceled the secret art. Time and space reversed, and Zhang Chun and the others appeared in front of the true feather race's mountain gate. At the same time, the corpses of the emperors of the two races were placed in front of the mountain gate. What? They were completely wiped out. The holy sons of our two races should have fused together. But why were we defeated? The people of the two races did not dare to believe this, nor were they willing to accept this reality. One had to know that if they lost this battle, the true feather race and the six-winged race would cease to exist. This was equivalent to their races being exterminated. 10 some breaths later, the area fell silent. No one spoke. The people of the two races knew that they had lost and would have to wait for the judgment of fate. On the other side, Wakako and the others were waiting for Zhang Chun to wake up. Half a day later, Zhang Chun had recovered considerably from his injuries. As he slowly woke up, he lay in by Feng Yu's embrace. He was very weak, his face was pale, and his lips were dry. However, there was a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth because they had won this battle. At this moment, he looked at the people of the two clans and softly asked, "Do you know your crimes? The destruction of the 6 realms was decided by us. It has nothing to do with them. Can you let them go?" At this moment, the transcendent from the true feather race walked out and looked at Zhang Chun, a hint of sorrow and vicissitudes in his eyes. He wanted to make a move, but he knew very well that if he did, Zhang Chun's supernatural beings would also make a move. At that time, he wouldn't be the only one to die. Even the other clansmen of the two clans would be annihilated. The people who decided to destroy the 6 realms are either dead or have gone to the front lines to resist the enemies. I don't know if they'll make it back alive. The elderly extraordinary sighed. Today, I will give you an explanation on behalf of the true feather race. How about it? Explanation? Zhang Chun raised his eyebrows. He didn't believe that this transcendent could give him an explanation. After all, in the eyes of many, transcendent were supreme beings who looked down on the world. What could they explain? What could they explain? To transcendent, the best explanation was to make a move and speak with their fists. We know our wrongs. Please let the descendants of the two clans go, the elderly extraordinary said. Then in front of everyone, he placed his palm on the top of his head. In an instant, his body crumbled and his soul began to burn. A transcendent of a generation had chosen to commit suicide. This was a disgrace to any transcendent. After cultivating to this level, one should be able to look down on the world and look down on all heroes. Why would they commit suicide? The descendants of the two clans have sealed themselves for 10,000 years and are not allowed to take half a step out of the sect. If anyone disobeys, their entire clan will be exterminated. Jiang Chun said in a low voice. Jiang Chun didn't like to kill indiscriminately. He also knew that the people who had decided to destroy the six realms were the upper echelons of these forces. Now, the other extraordinary had gone to the front lines. It was uncertain if they could return alive. Moreover, they were doing this to protect the greater thousand realms, so it was best to atone for their crimes. As for the descendants of the two clans, Jiang Chun didn't kill them. He only told them to seal themselves for 10,000 years. 10,000 years passed in the blink of an eye for cultivators. For some high-level cultivators, a single seclusion could even last 10,000 years. Not being able to see the stars change, not being able to see the vicissitudes of life, 10,000 years of sealing themselves was a very light punishment for the two clans. Boss, are we just going to let it go like this? Wakako frowned. The six realms were destroyed, and so many people died. Humans are not humans. There is no need to be someone else's human. Jiang Chun sighed. Then he slowly got up. With the support of Bai Fengyu and Nayland Mayer, he slowly walked into the distance with a trace of loneliness. After this battle, Jiang Chun was a little tired. He wasn't tired physically, but mentally. To be honest, before this battle began, Jiang Chun had also thought of killing all the people from these forces. But when the day came, he couldn't do it. Perhaps this was the difference between people. There is one last force left, the red spider lily. Half a day later, everyone was resting in a small world. Jiang Chun looked into the distance with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Back then, there were a total of 5 forces that had decided to destroy the 6 realms. Now that 4 had been destroyed, there was only one force left, the red spider lily. This force had always been very mysterious. Even the world didn't know that such a force existed. Only those forces and families with a long history knew of the existence of the red spider lily. It was said that there weren't many people in the red spider lily, but every one of them was a supreme expert and wasn't restricted by the Holy Land. There were also rumors that the reason the Holy Land could become the #1 force in the Great Thousand World was because of the support of the red spider lily. If this rumor was true, then the red spider lily couldn't be touched. Once the red spider lily was touched, the Holy Land would definitely take action. At that time, with the strength of Jiang Chun and the others, how could they compete with the Holy Land and the red spider lily? Master, are you thinking of stopping? Bai Fengyu asked. She was the first to follow Jiang Chun and was also Jiang Chen's first disciple. She understood Jiang Chen's heart very well. Especially now, Jiang Chun was deep in thought. While he was deep in thought, his gaze constantly swept over everyone. The worry in his eyes was difficult to hide. The Holy Land controls the Great Thousand World and maintains the balance of the Great Thousand World. Jiang Chun said, Now, we have destroyed several major forces in succession. This has undoubtedly broken some kind of balance in the Great Thousand World. But the Holy Land didn't stop us, Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. Perhaps this is a silent warning to us. Chapter 1333. If the red spider lily really had something to do with the Holy Land, then Jiang Chun absolutely could not attack them. First, the red spider lily was too mysterious, and their foundation was too deep. Jiang Chun did not dare to guarantee that he could destroy them. Second, if the Holy Land made a move, then with Jiang Chun's strength, attacking the red spider lily would undoubtedly be sending them to their deaths. But the enmity of the 6 realms had yet to be avenged. Were they just going to let it go like this? We destroyed the Heavenly Court, the Black Buddha lineage, and also sealed Jinyu and Lu Yi. After causing such a big commotion, how could the Holy Land not know? Jiang Chun said in a low voice, Since they knew but did not stop us, then there is only one possibility. They want us to stop when we've had enough. This is a silent warning. Hearing this, everyone's hearts turned cold, and they were filled with dread towards the Holy Land. However, Wakako and the others were very unhappy. Were they just going to let it go like this? Let's wait first. Perhaps the Holy Land will give us an answer. Jiang Chun sighed. In the end, everyone returned to their own homes. Jiang Chun brought everyone back to Heavenspan Court and settled down in the back mountain. The back mountain was where the upper echelons of Heavenspan Court lived, but now they were all gone. The dean and the others were also not there. With Jiang Chen's status and strength and the forces behind him, it could be said that he was in charge of Heavenspan Court. Thus, there was naturally no problem for him to settle down in the back mountain. After returning to the back mountain, Jiang Chen did not say much to Jiang Lu and the others. He chose to go into seclusion. In the battle with Jin Yu, Jiang Chen's injuries were too severe, and he was aware of his own shortcomings. Although his combat strength was very strong, his cultivation was too low. Now that the war was imminent and the age of dark blood was about to descend, Jiang Chun had to raise his cultivation level as quickly as possible. Only by raising his cultivation level could he better use the power of time. Boss has a lot on his mind. He didn't say much after coming back and went into seclusion. Is it because his injuries are too severe? No matter how severe his injuries are, he can recover in a few days. I think he has something on his mind. At this moment, outside Jiang Chen's closed-door training place, Jiang Chen and a group of people were sitting cross-legged to protect Jiang Chun. They weren't fools. They knew that Jiang Chen definitely had something on his mind, but he just didn't tell them. Is it related to the Holy Land? I don't think so. At this moment, Jiang Chun sat cross-legged and began to recuperate. The essence, energy, and spirit in his body were very exuberant. His blood was boiling like a vast ocean. His special saint body was also emitting a luster. As the blood in his body flowed, the sound of stormy waves hitting the shore could be heard. In just half a day, Jiang Chen's injuries were completely healed. After recovering from his injuries, Jiang Chen began to examine his own condition. The three Tao souls floated quietly in the spiritual world. Under the effects of the soul-ascending demonic technique, the three Tao souls had undergone some changes. However, these changes were not very obvious. Perhaps it was because the three Tao spirits had advanced several times, and it would not be so easy for them to advance again. They would need time to accumulate. Then, Jiang Chen's eyes fell on the three strands of chaotic aura. Previously, a strand of chaotic aura had turned into a doppelganger. It was that doppelganger that had saved Jiang Chen's life during the fierce battle with the real divine feather. However, that doppelganger had disappeared because of that. At this moment, the strand of chaotic aura had returned to its original appearance. It was like a green dragon that was entwining around Jiang Chen's soul. The other two strands of chaotic aura had become very blurry, as if they were about to disappear. After taking a closer look, Jiang Chen couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate. That was because the two strands of chaotic aura had somehow connected with the lamp-bearer. One strand of chaotic aura had turned into a chain that locked the lamp-bearer's limbs. The other strand of chaotic aura had turned into a tight band that locked the lamp-bearer's head. This is sealing the lamp-bearer. Jiang Chen was shocked. He couldn't understand why the three strands of chaotic aura had done that. Jiang Chen knew that the three strands of chaotic aura had spirits. However, wasn't this a bit too much? My three brothers, why are you sealing the lamp-bearer? This is my Taoist soul, Jiang Chun said angrily, hoping to communicate with the chaotic aura. However, the three strands of chaotic aura ignored Jiang Chun. Instead, the band around the lamp-bearer's head became tighter and tighter. Don't! Please show mercy. Jiang Chun was anxious. If the lamp-bearer was completely sealed, would it affect the ever-changing heavenly lamp? After a few breaths, seeing that the three strands of chaotic aura had ignored him, Jiang Chun didn't bother to communicate with them. He looked into his spiritual world again. Finally, he saw a diamond-shaped rune between his eyebrows. This diamond-shaped rune was flickering with strands of divine light, and the sound of a clock could be heard. There were also strands of time power around it. Is this a rune formed by the power of time? Jiang Chen was puzzled. He waved his hand, and a rose bloomed. Then he tried to use the power of time and found that the diamond-shaped rune began to flicker. Moreover, as the light of the diamond-shaped rune continued to flicker and brighten, there was a sudden roar above Jiang Chen's head. As the rumbling sound echoed, a shadow appeared. Upon closer inspection, it looked like an ancient clock. There was no minute hand or second hand. There was only an hour hand that was slowly turning. This is the power of time? Jiang Chen was shocked. The moment the clock appeared, Jiang Chen's power of time suddenly became stronger. Moreover, as the hour hand turned from the first hour to the second hour, Jiang Chen's mastery of the power of time became stronger. If it turns to 12, will my power of time reach its peak? Jiang Chen whispered. Out of curiosity, he did not put away the clock. He wanted to see if it would be as he guessed when the hour hand pointed to 12. However, after the clock appeared, the divine power in Jiang Chen's body was quickly depleted. When the clock turned to 3, Jiang Chen's divine power was completely depleted. Jiang Chen had no choice but to withdraw the power of time. A bitter smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. He sighed. In the end, his cultivation was still too low. However, Jiang Chen was not in a hurry. He had been in the ultimate god realm for a long time. He had enough foundation and accumulated a lot. Now, as long as he wanted to, he could directly break through and step into the Emperor God realm. However, Jiang Chen felt that something was missing. It was a strange feeling. Jiang Chen could not figure out what was missing. Just like that, he sat cross-legged and pondered. The divine power in his body was slowly recovering. Jiang Chen seemed to have entered a meditative state. He did not know how long had passed. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed in his mind. It was as if he had an epiphany. So it's missing. Jiang Chen's eyes were clear. He finally figured it out. Chapter 1334. Cultivation was like building a house. The foundation was the most important. With a stable foundation, one's cultivation would be smoother, and the heights one could reach would surpass ordinary people. Jiang Chen thought for a long time. He did not lack anything. His foundation was stable, his accumulation was deep, and he did not neglect his cultivation of various cultivation techniques. He even had the supreme Tao fruit. He really did not lack anything. However, Jiang Chen hadn't realized until a moment ago that he was still lacking one thing, the item to prove his Tao. Back then, in order to save the 9 heavens, Jiang Chen used the life-greedy ghost as the item to prove his Tao and nurtured it in his body. However, ever since the 9 heavens were born, the life-greedy ghost was abandoned by the Tao because it broke free from the comfort of the great Tao and lost its spirituality. In this way, the life-greedy ghost had a flaw. The item to prove one's Tao was the carrier of a cultivator's Tao technique. If this item had a flaw, it was equivalent to Jiang Chen's Tao technique having a flaw. Now, if he wanted to break through, Jiang Chen could choose not to repair the life-greedy ghost. However, if his Tao technique had a flaw, his future cultivation path would naturally not be long. Looks like I have to repair the life-greedy ghost. Jiang Chen sighed. However, the life-greedy ghost was a Tao soul that was nurtured by the Tao technique of heaven and earth. Now that it had lost its spirituality and was abandoned by the Tao, it was easier said than done to repair it. This was equivalent to fighting for creation with the Tao. What should I do? Should I change to another item to prove my Tao? Jiang Chen muttered. However, at this point in his cultivation, if he were to change the item to prove his Tao at the last minute, it would be very harmful to Jiang Chen. After all, the item to prove one's Tao was equivalent to a second life and a second Tao fruit for every cultivator. If he were to change the item to prove his Tao, not only would Jiang Chen's cultivation be delayed, even his foundation and Tao fruit would be damaged. For a moment, Jiang Chen fell silent and pondered quietly on how to restore the life-greedy ghost's spirituality. Time passed slowly. Jiang Chen kept thinking. He thought of many ideas, but he rejected them all. In the end, he looked at the myriad heavenly lamp, and his eyes flashed. The myriad heavenly lamp could turn the impossible into the possible. Perhaps the myriad transformations heavenly lamp could help the greedy ghost regain its spirituality. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen summoned the ever-changing heavenly lamp. Instantly, the lamp was lit up, and the green light flickered like chaos. Under the flickering of the lamp, it seemed to be demonstrating chaos. Then, Jiang Chun summoned Greedy Ghost. Upon closer inspection, the current Greedy Ghost no longer had his previous murderous aura. Now, it had become very ordinary. Even the scarlet color that once flowed on its surface had disappeared. If he were to show such a Greedy Ghost to others, they probably wouldn't believe that he was a Tao Soul Greedy Ghost. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Give it a try. Jiang Chun was astounded. The dignified number 1 Tao Soul of Slaughter had actually been reduced to such a state, and it was truly a pity. Then, he placed the life Greedy Ghost on the Myriad Change Heavenly Lamp and used the lamp to reforge it. He hoped that the Myriad Change Heavenly Lamp could help the life Greedy Ghost seize a strand of fortune from the Tao and restore its spirituality. The lamp burned faintly. At first, there was nothing special, but as time passed, strands of Tao rune fragments actually appeared in the Myriad Change Heavenly Lamp's lamp fire. The chaotic lamp fire seemed to have entered the invisible Tao and was refining the Tao runes. Then, it was pulled out from the Tao. These Tao rune fragments seemed to have spirituality and were constantly struggling as if they wanted to escape the Myriad Change Heavenly Lamp's control. However, the Myriad Change Heavenly Lamp was the first Tao Soul after all. It was very extraordinary and special. Under the burning of the lamp fire, no matter how these Tao rune fragments struggled, they couldn't escape his control. As time passed, more and more Tao rune fragments appeared and were constantly condensed and refined. Finally, they were engraved on the life Greedy Ghost. Jiang Chun didn't do anything. He was just watching them in a daze. Good fellow, what kind of power do these Tao rune fragments contain? Jiang Chun was speechless. He could feel that these rune fragments contained immense power. It was very pure, like some kind of rule power. This made Jiang Chun very shocked. One had to know that the most powerful power in this world was the power of rules and order. Jiang Chun now controlled some power of time. This was already enough to look down on all heroes, and even look down on the past and present. And now, if the life Greedy Ghost also gave birth to some kind of rule power of order because of this, then it was equivalent to him controlling 2 kinds of rule power of order. At that time, when the man and saber attacked together, how many people in the world could compete with Jiang Chun? Half a day later, just as Jiang Chun was full of anticipation, he saw that the life Greedy Ghost actually shattered. Without any sound, it suddenly shattered. Jiang Chun was caught off guard. His eyes were wide open, and his eyeballs were about to fall out. He was stunned on the spot. He thought to himself, could it be that it failed? Thinking about it carefully, it was easier said than done to seize a wisp of good fortune from the Tao. Failure was normal. However, after a few breaths, Jiang Chun felt that something was wrong. The life Greedy Ghost was his Tao item. If the life Greedy Ghost was shattered, his foundation and Tao fruit would be affected. If it was light, he would be seriously injured, and if it was heavy, he would die. But now, Jiang Chun was completely fine. In fact, he could even vaguely feel that his cultivation was slowly increasing. Could it be that it's recasting? Jiang Chun stared at the life Greedy Ghost that had turned into fragments, and his eyes once again showed a look of expectation. However, the process was very long. The light kept burning, and the Tao runes kept being captured, but the life Greedy Ghost never succeeded in recasting. But Jiang Chun was not in a hurry. He just waited quietly. Outside, Zhang Lu and the others were quite depressed. It was not that they had made a mistake in their cultivation, nor were they worried about Jiang Chun, but they felt an inexplicable and terrifying aura. This aura was very strange, as if it could suppress their souls and disturb their minds. What's going on? I'm upset, Wakako said in a deep voice. His face was red, and he really wanted to find someone to fight. His eyes fell on Zhang Lu, and he tentatively asked, "Want to fight?" "That's what I was thinking." Zhang Lu directly stood up and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He was also suppressed to the point of no return, and he needed to explode. At the same time, Xiao Qingyi and the others were the same. They all sat cross-legged, trying to suppress the irritation in their minds. "What's going on?" Could it be that we've all become obsessed? Bai Fengyu frowned, and her face was red. Her eyes seemed to be rippling. Nayland Mayer and Hua Liani were the same. Under this inexplicable aura, they became very strange, as if they were having sex. This made the three women very shy. They covered their faces and hurriedly ran away. On the other side, Jiu Tian stood in place with a dumbfounded expression. She could also feel that inexplicable aura, but she did not feel anything. It seems to be the life-greedy ghost, Jiu Tian muttered. After all, she was the first master of the life-greedy ghost in this life. She could still feel some changes in the life-greedy ghost. Chapter 1335. Jiu Tian hesitated for a moment at the door, but soon she also felt that something was wrong. Her heart was in a mess and her body was hot. This feeling. What is he doing? Jiu Tian's face turned red as she hurriedly ran away while covering her face. On the other side, Wakako and Jianglu had already started fighting. The restlessness in their hearts made them have no choice but to fight. Otherwise, they would be driven crazy. Jiang Chun did not know anything about what was happening outside. He was still staring at the life grubber and patiently waiting. After a few more days, Jiang Chen's expression became more and more strange. Because the life grubber was still in a broken state, and it seemed to be getting more and more broken. Previously, there were still some fragments left, but now it had turned into a pile of sand. However, the sand was emitting divine light, but it was pink in color. This color was somewhat like a girl's heart. What the hell is he doing? Jiang Chen was somewhat speechless as he had a bad feeling in his heart. As time passed, Jiang Chen's breathing unknowingly became hurried. His face turned red and his body became hot and sweaty. When he finally reacted, Jiang Chen's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly circulated his divine power and tried to suppress the restlessness in his heart. However, it was already too late. Who the hell plotted against me? Jiang Chen was furious. He felt that someone had plotted against him. Someone had secretly used a drug on him. However, this was the place where he was in seclusion and Jianglu and the rest were guarding outside. He really could not figure out who would do such a thing. Could it be those few great virtues? But thinking about it carefully, although those great virtues were deceitful, they would not dare to do such a thing, right? Half a day later, Jiang Chen was panting heavily. He was almost unable to suppress the flame in his heart. His eyes were red and his body was unbearably hot. The last trace of reason was about to disappear. But at this moment, the door of the training room was gently pushed open. Jiu Tian's head popped out and curiously walked in. She was very curious about what Jiang Chen was doing, and she also wanted to see what was going on with the life grubber. Whoosh! However, before she could see clearly, Jiang Chen suddenly appeared in front of her. Looking at Jiang Chen, whose body had turned red and whose eyes were bloodshot, Jiu Tian was stunned. You have fallen into depravity? Jiu Tian asked in astonishment, but Jiang Chen grabbed his wrist. You leave now. Jiang Chen's throat moved as he spoke with great difficulty. However, his body was very honest. At this moment, the nine heavens were panicking. She wanted to break free, but Jiang Chen's strength directly crushed her. She didn't even have the strength to struggle. The most important thing was that this place was too close to the life-greedy ghost that was recasting. That indescribable aura was extremely dense. 9 heavens under the heavens had only stayed here for a short while before his eyes began to blur. He is indeed very handsome. In the end, the two of them were completely lost. At the last moment of consciousness, under the 9th heaven praised Jiang Chen's appearance from the bottom of his heart. I will omit 10,000 words here. Everyone, comprehend it yourselves. After some time, when Jiang Chen woke up leisurely and saw Jiu Tian lying beside him, he was completely dumbfounded. Even though Jiang Chen's skin was extremely thick and could even be described as shameless, he was still a little flustered at this moment. At this moment, under the 9th heaven also slowly woke up. She frowned and patted her head. When she woke up, she saw Jiang Chen beside her in a daze. Then, under the 9th heaven looked at herself. She was completely naked. That this? Jiang Chen opened his mouth and pointed at himself, and then at under the ninth heaven. He didn't know what to say for a moment. Since it's done, then let it be done. Who knew that Jiu Tian was very calm? She endured the piercing pain below, and after putting on her clothes, she slowly stood up and patted Jiang Chen's shoulder. I will take responsibility for you. When she said this, the serious expression on under the ninth heaven's face almost made Jiang Chen doubt his life. Are you really okay? Jiang Chen asked. Sooner or later, that day will come. Anyway, I'm going to get married and have children. Seeing that you're not bad, I'll just make do with it. Jiu Tian said. See that I'm not bad? Make do with it? Jiang Chen was shocked. He stood rooted to the ground and was in a mess. With his appearance, she called that make do with it? At this moment, Jiang Chen's face darkened. He also hurriedly put on his clothes. With a sullen face, he felt a little wronged in his heart. At this moment, under the ninth heaven was already relieved. Perhaps that was her nature. She looked at the 1,000-change heavenly lamp in the cultivation room. When she saw the pile of star-like sand on top of the 1,000-change heavenly lamp, her face changed. Jiang Chen also noticed the change in Greedy Ghost. When he walked closer, he realized that the 1,000-change heavenly lamp's light had already been extinguished. Could this mean that the Greedy Ghost reforging was successful? Looking at the sparkling pile of pink sand in front of him, Jiang Chen subconsciously reached out to touch it. In an instant, the Greedy Ghost entered Jiang Chen's body. Furthermore, a light flashed in Jiang Chen's mind. As if he had been enlightened, he immediately knew what the Greedy Ghost had become. 1,000-change heavenly lamp? Didn't you go a little overboard this time? Jiang Chen's face darkened. He never thought that after the 1,000-change heavenly lamp reforged the Greedy Ghost, it would even change its original form. It was no longer like a saber or a sword, but it was really a pile of sand. The most important thing was that this sand hid a kind of power of the 3,000 great Taoists, the power of desire. I knew it. How could I lose control? Jiang Chen smiled bitterly. With a wave of his hand, the Greedy Ghost turned into sparkling and translucent pink sand and wrapped around him. With a thought, the power of desire exploded, and pink wind seemed to swirl around him. What? What are you doing? Jiu Tian was too close to Jiang Chen. Unfortunately, she was caught in the pink wind. Instantly, the restlessness in her heart surfaced again. Her face turned red again, and her eyes rippled. Damn, so powerful. Jiang Chen was furious. He hurriedly put away the Greedy Ghost and said awkwardly, reforging the Greedy Ghost. But I didn't think it would turn out like this. Old pervert. Pervert leader. Habitual offender. Definitely a habitual offender. Jiu Tian seemed to be a little angry. After glaring at Jiang Chen, she turned around and ran away. Jiang Chen smiled bitterly and summoned the Greedy Ghost again. After looking at it carefully, he said seriously, I'll give you a new name. I'll call you Abstention. Chapter 1336. After recasting the Greedy Ghost, he did not expect it to become like this. Jiang Chen also suspected that the myriad transformation heavenly lamp was tricking him. However, at least the Greedy Ghost was recast and turned into abstinence. Jiang Chen's Tao fruit and foundation could be considered to have caught up. At this moment, the divine power in Jiang Chen's body surged. Tao techniques danced around him like divine chains, like true dragons, showing an extraordinary aura. His aura gradually rose, like a brilliant sun slowly rising. The entire back mountain was enveloped by a terrifying and inexplicable pressure. In the sky, thunderclouds covered the sky. Lightning flashed with a pitch-black luster, and drops of blood rain fell. Jiang Chen's heavenly tribulation had arrived. Run! Boss is transcending the tribulation? At this moment, the expressions of the few virtuous beings changed drastically. They knew how terrifying Jiang Chen's heavenly tribulation was. Every time Jiang Chen's heavenly tribulation, it could be described as devastating. However, although the great virtues shouted like this, they did not retreat. That was because Jiang Chun could safely pass through every heavenly tribulation. Moreover, he could pass through it with great strength. They were not worried that they would be implicated by the heavenly tribulation. In fact, they even sympathized with this heavenly tribulation. Buzz! After a few breaths, a rumbling sound came from the place where Jiang Chun was cultivating in seclusion. Then, divine power surged like a wave. Immediately afterward, everyone saw a reddish-gold fist rushing up. Before the lightning could fall, it was smashed into pieces by this fist. Boss is still the same boss. His way of transcending the tribulation is different. He's still as fierce as ever. He shattered the heavenly tribulation with one punch. Everyone exclaimed. Although they had seen it several times, they could not help but exclaim every time they saw Jiang Chun shatter the heavenly tribulation. Boss's strength has increased greatly after his breakthrough this time. There should be no match for him below the extraordinaire, right? Jiang Lu said. Everyone was very clear about Jiang Chun's combat strength. With the power of a godly venerable, he could compete with an upper emperor and even suppress the other party. And then, Jiang Chun had broken through to Emperor God. The terror of his fighting power naturally went without saying. That's not necessarily true. We're not weak either. Wakako raised his eyebrows. Although he followed Jiang Chun, he was indeed very strong. He believed that he was not weaker than Jiang Chun. On the other side, Xiao Qingyi also had a smile on his face. Ever since he devoured the ancient spirit, his strength had greatly increased, and he had even obtained some of the ancient spirit's abilities. Among Jiang Chun's disciples and brothers, his strength could definitely be ranked in the top 3. You don't seem right? At this moment, the female disciples didn't care about the heavenly tribulation. They stared at Zhou Tian and felt that this young lady was acting strange. Master is now the prince consort of my Zhou Tian court. Zhou Tian raised her eyebrows and said proudly. Hearing this, Bai Fengyu and the others were stunned for a moment, unable to react in time. After a few breaths, Huo Yini reacted. She stared at Zhou Tian with a strange expression and asked, "When did this happen?" "Not long ago." Under Zhou Tian's expression became more and more proud. Then, she pretended to be shy and said, "I'm no longer a young lady. I'm a real woman now." "What? Not long ago?" At this moment, Bai Fengyu and Nayland Mayer widened their eyes in disbelief. "When did under Zhou Tian make a move?" "Didn't you guys leave earlier?" "I came back and wanted to see what Master was doing." And then, Zhou Tian giggled with a hint of provocation in her eyes. Bai Fengyu and Nayland Mayer were Jiang Chun's first and second disciples, but now, Zhou Tian was one step ahead of them. "According to the seniority of disciples, I should call you senior sister. But according to the seniority of women, you should call me madam?" Zhou Tian said. At this moment, Bai Fengyu and Nayland Mayer couldn't be bothered with Zhou Tian. The two of them angrily rushed into Jiang Chun's seclusion area as if they were going to punish him. However, when they entered, they realized that there wasn't a single person in the cultivation room. Jiang Chun disappeared. "Master, where is he?" Bai Fengyu and Nayland Mayer shouted a few times, and then walked out with a puzzled expression. "Master is gone." Bai Fengyu looked at everyone and asked, "Where did he go?" "What? Boss is gone? He just finished his heavenly tribulation. Why is he gone?" Everyone was puzzled and stood rooted to the ground. They couldn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, Jiang Lu's expression changed greatly. His eyes flashed and he said in a low voice, "Boss, he couldn't have gone to the red spider lily alone, right?" Jiang Lu and Jiang Chun had known each other for the longest time. He knew what kind of personality Jiang Chun had. Previously, Jiang Chun brought so many people, but didn't attack the red spider lily. This wasn't because Jiang Chun was afraid, but because he was worried about the safety of Jiang Lu and the others. Now, everyone had retreated and Jiang Chun had just broken through. With Jiang Chun's temperament, he would naturally take action. "Boss is worried that he went to the red spider lily alone? Hurry up and find him." At this moment, everyone was anxious. Although they didn't know how strong the red spider lily was, they could guess that its background was extraordinary. Jiang Chun went to attack the red spider lily alone. Wasn't this sending himself to death? However, it was too difficult for Jiang Lu and the others to find Jiang Chun. After all, the red spider lily was too mysterious. They didn't know where the red spider lily was. Boss is still that boss. Wakako sighed. He was very vexed. If only he could have guessed Jiang Chen's thoughts earlier. At the same time, hundreds of millions of miles away from Tongtian Garden, in a bright starry sky, Jiang Chun tore through the void and walked out. What he saw was a bright nebula. In the nebula, there was a magnificent palace. The stars in the sky rotated around it, and the sound of the great path reverberated like a bell. The stars were accompanied by a rain of light, and the fog was mixed with the power of the great path. It was ethereal and illusory at the same time. This place was like a fairyland. This was the place where the sacred land, the number one force in the great thousand world, was located. I am Jiang Chun. I have come to visit the sacred land. At this moment, Jiang Chun stood in place, cupped his hands toward the palace surrounded by the nebula, and said loudly. Jiang Chun didn't go directly to the red spider lily because he didn't know where the red spider lily was. Therefore, he came to the sacred land first. He wanted to find out the relationship between the sacred land and the red spider lily. Not everyone can enter the sacred land. No one came out to receive Jiang Chun, but a voice full of contempt was heard. Jiang Chun frowned and said in a deep voice, I came here today to ask one thing. Can the people of the sacred land come out and explain? However, after he said that, the sacred land was silent. Obviously, no one cared about Jiang Chun. At this moment, Jiang Chun's face darkened. He stared at the magnificent and ancient palace, and the aura on his body rose rapidly. Chapter 1337. Since Jiang Chun was here, he had to get to the bottom of this. The 6 realms had been destroyed and so many people had died. How could he not take revenge? He did not come to the sacred land and the red spider lily not because he was afraid, but because he was worried about the safety of Jiang Lu and the others. Now that he was here alone, what was there to be afraid of? Even if you have reincarnated 10 times, the sacred land is still not something you can fight against. Leave now. Someone in the sacred land rebuked angrily. He had not spoken before, but it was obvious that he was paying attention. Jiang Chen's eyes flashed coldly when he heard that. He said coldly, I don't need the title of being reincarnated 10 times. I just want the sacred land to give me an answer today. So what if you know the truth? What can you do? Can you destroy the red spider lily or the sacred land? The people in the sacred land were very calm and confident. They did not hide their contempt for Jiang Chun in their words. The sacred land was the strongest force in the great thousand world in this era. Even if the extraordinaries were not here, the sacred land's foundation was still not to be underestimated. Moreover, with the sacred land status, how many forces in the world would dare to disagree if they wanted to keep a few extraordinaries in the sacred land? In addition, the people in the sacred land spoke with such confidence. Jiang Chun did not even need to think about it to know that there must be more than one extraordinaries in the sacred land. The extraordinaries in the sacred land were so powerful that they could compete with people like D. Cantillon and Rotten Wine Monk. Otherwise, even if the sacred land had extraordinaries, where did they get their confidence from? The sacred land is the strongest force in the great thousand world. Don't you have the courage to come forward and explain yourself? Or do you think the sacred land can do whatever you want because you think you are the strongest? Jiang Chun said coldly. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, a roar came from above Jiang Chen's head. An ancient clock appeared. The clock did not have a second hand or a minute hand, only an hour hand that was slowly turning. With the appearance of the clock, wisps of obscure fluctuations appeared around Jiang Chun. That was the power of time rippling. However, Jiang Chun was not in a hurry to make a move. He was waiting for an opportunity. The hour hand was now at the position of 1. He wanted to wait until 12:00 clock to make a move on the Holy Lands. At that time, the power of time that he had mastered would be at its strongest, and he might even be able to fight against an extraordinaire. Of course, this was just Jiang Qin's own guess. As for whether he could fight against a supernatural being, that was really uncertain. After all, every transcendent being, even the weakest transcendent being, was ultimately the strongest in this world. They had experienced 10,000 tribulations, their cultivations and foundations deep, overlooking all creatures under the heavens. To extraordinaires, as long as they were not cultivators of the same realm, no matter how strong they would not be able to shake them in the slightest. If you insist on not leaving, don't blame my sacred ground for not giving you any face. At this moment, the people in the Holy Land seemed to be angered. They hadn't made a move yet, probably because they were afraid of something. But now, seeing that Jiang Qin was still unwilling to leave, the Holy Land naturally felt embarrassed. As he shouted angrily, he saw a young man in white walking out of the gate of the Holy Land. He was rather handsome with well-defined features. When he walked, his steps were like dragons and tigers, giving off a sense of oppression. Most importantly, this young man's cultivation had reached the realm of a half-step extraordinaire. In an era where extraordinaires were not around, a half-step extraordinaire's cultivation was enough to look down on all living beings in this world. "My master asked me to come out and advise you to return," the young man said. "The Holy Land doesn't want to make things difficult for you. Don't provoke the Holy Land either." "Since I'm here today, I won't leave so easily," Jiang Qin said softly. There was no trace of emotion in his eyes, and he was extremely calm. This surprised the young man, although he had heard that Jiang Qin's combat strength was very strong. How could he be so calm and composed when facing a half-step extraordinaire with such a cultivation? "Since you're unwilling to leave, then you can stay here forever." At this moment, the young man did not say anything else. With a wave of his hand, a long sword that was shining with a blue light appeared in his hand. Then, he raised his hand, and the sword light burst forth like a blue wave. It covered the starry sky in all directions and pressed down on Jiang Qin. The sword light was extremely terrifying, and it seemed to have the power of a blue sea covering the sky. The void shattered under this sword, and even the great Tao was trembling. "If you retreat, I'll take back this sword," the young man said. He was very confident that Jiang Qin would not be able to withstand this sword. However, just as he finished speaking, the shadow of a dragon roared out from Jiang Qin's body. The dragon's roar shook the sky, and the dragon's might was vast and mighty. Everywhere it passed, it was as if a true dragon was treading on the sea, and it tore the sword light into a rain of divine light. Then, the dragon's shadow did not slow down and escaped into the void. When it reappeared, it had already bombarded the young man from the Holy Land. Poof! Following a muffled sound, the young man was sent flying. The divine power in his body was scattered, and his physical body exploded on the spot. "You've gone too far." At that moment, a middle-aged man appeared in the Holy Land. With a wave of his hand, he helped the young man from the Holy Land rebuild his physical body and protected him behind him. Before Jiang Qin could speak, the young man from the Holy Land came out with his sword. His eyes were filled with shock and anger as he said, "I was careless just now." "Again? Careless?" The corners of Jiang Qin's mouth curled up slightly, and he said contemptuously, "If he didn't help you, not to mention your physical body, even your soul would not be left. Back off." The middle-aged man from the Holy Land reprimanded the young man. Obviously, he could see that his disciple was no match for Jiang Qin. If he attacked again, he would undoubtedly lose face again. "What do you want?" At that moment, the middle-aged man from the Holy Land looked at Jiang Qin with a trace of anger in his eyes. Obviously, the Holy Land really did not want to attack Jiang Qin. The Holy Land knew that Jiang Qin had the support of many forces. If they attacked Jiang Qin, it would be equivalent to attacking many top forces. However, at that moment, Jiang Qin refused to leave. For the Holy Land, he was being overbearing. With the Holy Land's status and strength, they could not lose face like this. "I want to attack the red spider lilies. Does the Holy Land have any objections?" Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and asked. As soon as he said this, the middle-aged man from the Holy Land frowned, and a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. At the same time, the aura of an extraordinaire erupted from his body and rushed towards Jiang Chen. He did not attack, but his aura was obviously a warning to Jiang Chen. My surname is In, and my name is Shengtian. After a few breaths, the man from the Holy Land said meaningfully, the people of the red spider lilies all have the surname, and when Jiang Chen heard this, he grinned and understood the Holy Land's meaning. It seems that the rumors are true. The Holy Land was single-handedly supported by the red spider lilies, Jiang Chen said softly. If you want to destroy the red spider lilies, you have to destroy the Holy Land first, right? Chapter 1338. Enchantment and the red spider lilies were now guarding the holy ground. If the rumors were true, then the top force in the great thousand world was indeed supported by the red spider lilies. If they wanted to destroy the red spider lilies, they had to destroy the holy ground first. However, the holy ground's strength and foundation were known throughout the great thousand world. It was undoubtedly the top force. Even if the extraordinaries were no longer around, the holy ground's position was still unshakable. You should be glad. If it weren't for the help of so many forces, you would be a corpse now. And Shengshen said coldly. The killing intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. Jiang Chen nodded to himself. He knew the reason why he was still standing here alive was because of the forces behind him. Am I going to give up like this? Jiang Chen sighed in his heart. Whether it was the holy ground or the red spider lilies, they were not forces that he could deal with now. However, was he going to forget about the enmity of the six realms? When the six realms were destroyed, so many people died. Even those who followed him were almost all dead. Jiang Chen had always remembered this enmity. If he did not take revenge, where would his heart go? Go back. You are not who you used to be. And Shengshen said, if it were in the past, the holy ground would not be qualified to talk to you. However, in this life, what are you? Oh yes. Jiang Chen sighed. In this life, he had only lived for a few years. He had not cultivated for long, and his cultivation was not deep. Compared to his previous lives, this life was indeed too weak. However, Jiang Chen did not leave. He stood where he was and stared at Anshengshen. He did not speak, as if he was waiting for something. Why are you still not leaving? Do you think Di Shintian and the others will really come to help you? Anshengshen said contemptuously, they won't dare to come. Jiang Chen shook his head when he heard this. He knew that if Di Shintian and the others were still in the Great Thousand World, they would definitely come here. However, they should have gone to war now. If they were still in the Great Thousand World, would the Holy Ground have such confidence? Jiang Chen retorted. The cultivation and strength of Di Shintian and the others were definitely top forces in the era where there were no immortals. Even the Holy Ground did not dare to go to war with Di Shintian and the others. However, Di Shintian and the others were righteous and had gone to war. They could not care less about Jiang Chen. Why are you still not leaving? And Shengshen asked again. The anger in his eyes became more and more intense. In his eyes, Jiang Chen was obviously provoking the Holy Land and the red spider lily by staying there for so long. Why haven't you attacked yet? Jiang Chen asked. Hearing this, and Shengshen's face instantly turned ugly. He stared coldly, and Shengshen said Shengtian, and the others and said King. He said Kings, and Shengshen said Tian. Touch me if you dare. Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and said. At this moment, Jiang Chen could feel that in Shengtian's energy had soared, and his killing intent was spreading like a flood. However, in the end, Shengshen's aura calmed down, and only the murderous intent was left. Obviously, Shengshen did not dare to attack, because he had some scruples. Although I don't remember the memories of my previous lives, I know that this world owes me a life. Jiang Chen said softly and pointed to his chest. Tell me, after so many years, through so many eras and catastrophes, how many of those who owe me a life are still alive? If they're still alive and I ask them to return my life, will they come? And Shengshen's face darkened when he heard King's words. He knew that if Jiang Chen really asked, someone would definitely come and return Jiang Chen's life. Even in the Holy Ground, there were people who owed Jiang Chen a life. That was why the Holy Ground did not attack. They only wanted to persuade Jiang Chen to leave. However, Jiang Chen's words had undoubtedly torn the last piece of cloth that the Holy Ground and the red spider lily were hiding. They did not dare to attack. Actually, I don't want to destroy the Holy Ground and the red spider lily. After all, the 6 realms have been destroyed and the dead cannot be resurrected. Everything is in the past. Jiang Chen sighed. I just want the Holy Ground and the red spider lily to announce to the world that they apologize to the 6 realms and the people who died in the 6 realms. That's it? And Shengshen was stunned. He did not expect Jiang Chen's request to be so simple. However, Shengshen would not agree to such a request. The Holy Ground and the Red Spider Lily clan would not agree. A public apology would be a disgrace to the Holy Ground and the Red Spider Lily clan. As for the top powers and clans, sometimes they would rather be destroyed, would rather perish than admit their mistakes. Don't think that the Holy Ground does not dare to attack you. And Shengshen said, hurry up and leave. If this continues, no one will be able to stop it. A battle will be inevitable. Battle? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Divine power erupted from his body, and the clock above his head rumbled. After a few breaths, Jiang Chen said softly, then let's fight. You're courting death. And Shengshen was completely enraged. He had endured for a long time. Now, he really could not endure any longer. He came from the Red Spider Lily clan and had his own pride. Now he had endured again and again, but Jiang Chen did not retreat. He was completely enraged. The world owes me a life. Will anyone pay me back today? At this moment, Jiang Chen whispered. His voice was not loud, as if he was talking to himself. However, the moment his voice fell, a ray of starlight shot into the sky from the depths of the eastern starfield. It seemed to break through the endless void and tear the sky apart. The life I owe you, I will pay it back today. Accompanied by a long roar, a brilliant sun slowly rose from the depths of the eastern starfield. Upon closer inspection, it was an old man with 4 broken limbs. His condition was very strange. He was covered in wounds, some of which had not even healed and were still dripping with rotten black blood. However, his aura was like a rainbow. The moment he rose, he crossed the heavens and came directly to Jiang Chen's side. He did not greet Jiang Chen because he knew that even if he told Jiang Chen his identity, Jiang Chen would not recognize him. After all, in this life, Jiang Chen did not have the memories of his previous lives. In Shengshen, I was seriously injured in the prehistoric era and have been at death's door until now. My vitality has long dried up, and my lifespan is nearing its end. The limbless old man looked at Shengshen and said casually, Today, I am indeed here to pay back my life and also to die. However, do you dare to take my life? Hearing this, Sheng Tian's expression changed greatly, and a trace of bewilderment appeared in his eyes. He stared at the old man who had lost all his limbs, his eyes filled with suspicion. You are the #1 general of the ancient heavenly court? And Shengshen asked tentatively. He did not remember the other party's name, but he had seen the other party's appearance in an ancient painting. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.